questions any beliefs that that person may be acting on. I think this was a wake-up call. Honorable Speaker, I mourn with the people and families of Kilifi, especially the mothers and those children who died because they did not know what their fathers believed in, who have passed on because they did not know that their parents were actually believing in a religion that was going to kill them. And therefore, on my own behalf and on the behalf of the people of Emuaya, we want to mourn with the people of Kilifi and ask the authorities to take the quickest possible measure in order to bring that to an end. Honorable Speaker, the underlying factor will then remain, what else shall we do after dealing with the Kilifi manifest? That is, which laws can we put in place so that we can control the religions that are coming up every day in and out? One time in the 12th Parliament, a honorable member came to this Parliament with a law that was supposed to regulate religion, and every member of Parliament shied away from that particular law and allowed the matter to die a natural death. The truth is that the happening in Kilifi has now made even the religious leaders themselves. Yesterday I saw them address the state, and they said that they also think that there's need or some form of regulation to actually control which type of religion, beliefs, and practices that are coming up in this particular country. And this could be the correct chance for Parliament and those of us who can proceed to make a law so that we have some form of regulation on the religions that are upcoming. Honorable Speaker, when did the rain start beating us? Originally, religious sects and churches were registered through the advisory of the NCCK, and there was a council of churches that was actually ventilating before they qualify a church to be registered. Today, it is done at the level of societies, and it's easy to register anything, whether as a CBO, as a church, and proceed and manifest your beliefs, and that is where we are. For me, this should be a wake-up call for not only the government, but even the leadership, the House, in totality without blame game, so that we may address the issue of religious practices that are harmful to our people. Thank you, and I support.
Thank you. Member for Kiamba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion. May I state that it is very emotive issue that needs an attention of the national government so they can be able to see what is the extent.
What's your point of order, Member for Arieda?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've been here for some time queuing, and I perfectly understand that I cannot jump the queue. At some points, I wanted to raise points of order on some speeches. I was not given the opportunity. So I was now queuing to contribute. But Madam Speaker, it is my understanding that there must be equality of arms in this House. I have, in the last 6 speakers, counted 3 speakers back to back from our colleagues on the other side, and then 1 speaker this side. And right now, there are also 2 speakers back to back from the other side. Madam Speaker, may I urge that I know that in these times, when there are people crossing over here and there in an unregulated matter, it may be difficult to tell, but at least you can tell by where one sits for now. Madam Speaker, may I just urge that we catch your eye more from this side, as the other side seems to catch your eye. Thank you, Madam.
Order, Member for Arieda. I wish you would be patient, but even more importantly, I cannot even see you in the queue.
Yes.
So just to tell you, in my queue, and I am following it. So just be patient.
We came at once.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order, members. Honorable Member Kawanjiko, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for that protection. I think he was also not on. He was not on order. May I say that this is a very emotive issue, Madam Speaker, that what is happening within our country, especially on matters of religion, Madam Speaker. The issue of religion and Christianity is a very emotive issue that probably sometimes people take it out of hands, and therefore I support the member and appreciate the member of Kilifi, Mheshimiwa Owen Baya, for bringing up these motions so that we can also have a deliberation and a discussion as a House, so that we know, do we really need to move to an extent of making sure that we regulate the churches within our country and we create a body that probably will help the government to monitor whatever is happening within our churches, Madam Speaker. Some of these issues, they are issues of also of national security issue, Madam Speaker, because what happens within those churches, if the government is not keen on whatever happens, the kind of information that is being passed to the congregants, Madam Speaker, I think it is an issue that will call upon the national government, the internal security minister, so that to start checking out the kind of information that these pastors or the people call themselves pastors who are relaying this information to the members. So that if it's an issue of insecurity, like now, we are being told there are already 73 people. And out of the 73 people, 212 are also missing, Madam Speaker. So it's a very, very serious issue that needs intervention from the national government, that needs intervention from the NSIS, and even the way the issue was handled. We have come from a point whereby we don't have some of this information. The intelligence should be giving out this information to the national police. Now it is a blame game between the NSIS, the National Police Service. And when you look at it, because even the way that some of the churches that are telling and convincing their members, we are Christian, all of us. But I think it is really going overboard, and we don't need to set a team to look into the doctrines that are being preached and propagated by these pastors, Madam Speaker. It is an issue that probably we call upon the National Churches Council to sit down and advise the national government and even the parliament, how do we regulate these log people who are calling themselves pastors, and in real sense, they are not pastors, Madam Speaker. They are videos, viral videos, pastors, stepping on other people. They cannot be able to walk. They, even shaving other people, private parts in the name of religion. I think it is absurd, Madam Speaker, and we really need to condemn whatever is happening, but the government needs to wake, the girl needs to wake and at least understand within their localities, within the Nyumba Kumi, what kind of preachings it is going on, because it is a matter of national security, Madam Speaker. And in any case, if someone is radicalizing these people without the intention, without the government knowing what is happening, then it is an issue of, it's a threat to our national security, Madam Speaker. I therefore support Mheshimiwa Owen Baya, and we should really come up with regulation so that we can be able to put check and balances of whatever is happening within our churches. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Funyula. Give him the microphone.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm seated behind Bishop Hamala, and I want to make a special plea that you give him to educate us and preach to us on the importance and doctrine of fasting, religion, and the path to heaven. Honorable Speaker, I'm a Catholic, and we Catholic believe in Matthew 6, verse 16 to 18, and allow me, Honorable Speaker, to read as written, and when you fast, do not choose to become gloomy like the hypocrites, for they alter their faces so that their fasting may be apparent to men. Amen, I say to you that they have received their reward. Honorable Speaker, the biblical position about fasting, I'm not a pastor, not a theologian, so I will not bother to delve into it, is that it is supposed to bring you closer to God. It's not supposed to take you closer to the grave. Honorable Speaker, I find it impossible to believe that a human being with the proper faculty can be brainwashed to this level, that to fast to the point of death. Even the most radical people on this earth have got value for life. And the value for life starts with your life and the life of your neighbor. And in the Bible it's written, they ask, who is your neighbor? A neighbor is anybody who has got a breathing soul, whether it's a human being or a domestic animal. Honorable Speaker, the level of radicalization pastors and evangelical cults and religion is something the nation and as a country we must look at it honestly and seriously. Honorable Speaker, some of these cults, I want to call them cults, go to an extent, Honorable Speaker, asking their members to contribute the little they have to their pastors, yet themselves they sleep hungry. Many times, Honorable Speaker, and we stand accused, all of us who are Christians, we would go to church to contribute to buy our car for a pastor, but will never contribute to take our fellow congregant to church. We'll never contribute to take to a child for a fellow prayer group member to school, but will be in a hurry to buy a pastor or whatever you call them, top range vehicle. And there are very ridiculous cases that you must treat a pastor much better than yourself. Is this kind of brainwashing, Honorable Speaker, that's leading us to this level? And I want to put it very clear, Honorable Speaker, this is a deranged doctrine, it's not biblical, and as somebody has said, and as Bishop has said there, this is a psychological problem, it's not a religious problem. There's no religion, Honorable Speaker, that condones death. There's no religion, Honorable Speaker, that can make anybody can get gratification in seeing somebody's suffering, Honorable Speaker. We must come to terms with their positions. Honorable Speaker, Article 32 provides freedom of worship, freedom for expression of religious belief. But indeed, it's not the absolute right, Honorable Speaker. The state has got a duty and has got a responsibility, Honorable Speaker, to regulate how church behave, how church conduct their activities. There is no reasons whatsoever to shirk the responsibility and then now hop in modern helicopters to go to Kilifi to showcase their cases. Honorable Speaker, we politicians stand accused. Many of us have glorified religion to a point that we call church services, we call congregations, we call whatever we call to go and pray for the economy to improve, for the rains to come. And many of us, Honorable Speaker, this is the kind of seeds we are sowing, and this is what we are reaping for this country, Honorable Speaker. It is time we stop this hypocrisy as stated in Matthew chapter 16 and preach the correct gospel and tell people the truth, not lies that cause them to cause harm, personal harm to themselves. Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Member for Angwe.
I thank you and appreciate you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to add my voice and the voice of the great people of Rango constituency on this matter. Honorable Speaker, allow me also to empathize with the families who've lost their loved ones. And from the reports that we are getting from the media, Honorable Speaker, it is not only one tribe, because there was a case of somebody from Kisumu who had also gone for the holy water plus the fasting. And I also saw somebody from Kajiado who had gone for fasting and prayer. And it actually cut across the country. So literally, this is not a Kilifi matter. This is a matter that is of national concern, Honorable Speaker. And our Progressive Constitution 2010, Honorable Speaker, provides for freedom of religion. You choose where you want to worship, you choose what you want to worship, to the extent that it helps you and benefits you. Honorable Speaker, Article 38, Article 8 of the Constitution provides that there is no state religion. There is nothing that Kenya sticks to at its own state religion. And in so doing, it adds up to the fact that there is freedom. You choose what you want to worship. Article 53B, Honorable Speaker, recognizes the right of all children to be protected from abuse, neglect, and harmful cultural practices. In this matter, Honorable Speaker, school-going children have been subjected to abuse, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Article 29F provides for freedom and security of persons in a cruel, from cruel or inhuman degrading practices. Religion is a point of practice and a point for people to socialize, Honorable Speaker. You go to church, you can meet friends, and when you are in church, Honorable Speaker, you can socialize. I want to also overemphasize that we need religion, and we have religious leaders. And religious leaders have also contributed immensely to the governance of this country. We cannot castigate all of them, Honorable Speaker. It is unfortunate there is only one egg that is spoiling for the other religious leaders, or a number of them. Religion is playing a fundamental role in keeping human beings sane. And I really don't understand why somebody should use a positive point of human interaction with God to cause death for others, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wonder what a Kenyan, because Pastor Mackenzie is of Kenyan descent, I wonder what a Kenyan would want to see, or what he gains when he sees fellow Kenyans dying, Honorable Speaker. The other day we were talking about even school-going children dying in our roads because of accidents. But this is somebody who allays them and sweet talks them and gives them holy water and puts them to their death by persuasion. It is even difficult, Honorable Speaker, to put a charge to this particular individual and his cohort. Honorable Speaker, I want to say this with humility. I want to say this, that may God visit Kenya. May God visit our nation. May God have mercy on Kenya. Because if we continue like this as a nation, we will be the laughingstock of the greater East Africa, if not Africa and the rest of the world. I pray for the lost souls. And I also pray to Pastor Mackenzie, because I saw the arrogance with which he was talking to journalists when he was being arrested. Pastor Mackenzie, utalipa. You are going to pay for your sins that you have done, for the people that you have killed. Your grandchildren and great-grandchildren will suffer loss. I thank you for the opportunity, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Endebess.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to contribute this motion. On the onset, I want to support the adjournment motion by the Deputy Leader. Madam Speaker, our law talks about aiding suicide, and any person who procures another to kill himself or counsel another to kill himself and thereby induces him to do so, or aids another in killing himself, is guilty of a felony and is liable to imprisonment for life. Madam Speaker, to me, Pastor Mackenzie is a criminal. He's a criminal that has aided more than 90 people to die, and therefore he deserves a life imprisonment. And if authorities, if the courts release him, Madam Speaker, I think the community should take the law into their hands and lynch this man, because that is a very serious thing for somebody to brainwash a whole 90 people to commit suicide through fasting and supervise fasting for that purpose. To me, I think this borders or even on genocide, because you cannot take religion either by cultism, through either through sectarianism, or through churchly ways, or through mystical ways, to enforce a group of people to fast to death. That to me is a criminal offense, Madam Speaker. I know that there are churches and there are leaders of the church who are doing a good job, because religion everybody has different religions. And my brother, the member for Kakamega, Lurambi constituency, Bishop Kamala, who is a member of my committee, is a good example of good pastors, because he preaches and makes sure that he preaches the right doctrine. And that's why his congregants have been able to elect him twice to this house. So those are examples of good pastors. But there are others who are brainwashing other people through religion, and I think they'll not be able to even see the kingdom of God. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I know there are many people who would want to contribute. Those are my few remarks pertaining this very important adjournment motion, and I support.
Thank you. Member for Kimilili.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this very important adjournment motion. Madam Speaker, we are talking of 90 souls that has been lost, but the number can even increase to 5,000, depending on whether we have other graves or not. The offense that has been committed by this person called Mackenzie qualifies him to be tried for the offense of genocide at the ICC. Madam Speaker, these people who have lost their lives, they have lost their lives in circumstances that they never deserved to lose their life, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, protect me from Raphael Wanjala is interrupting me.
Member for Kimilili, I think you can tell Honorable Wanjala is in his best behavior. So just continue.
I'm properly guided, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, but I must say this. This Mackenzie, when he began his fake church, issues were raised about his conduct. It was very easy for the government of Kenya at that time to just uproot him. But we allowed this man to germinate into a very huge tree that we are struggling to cut today. Madam Speaker, we are also debating about this Mackenzie, and we are also forgetting that we have another fake man in Tongren calling himself Jesus, and wives have abandoned their husbands to go and make that home their first home, that they are living with Jesus, and we are not uprooting this man, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the government of Kenya has tolerated this type of behavior for a very long time. Madam Speaker, it's not just this Mackenzie. We have got very many things that begin as small things. Even as we speak today, the same way the government of Kenya tolerated this Mackenzie is the same way we are tolerating people who are engaging in urban banditry, economic sabotage, and anarchists, Madam Speaker. That from today, I want to advise the IG, I want to advise the Minister in charge of Interior that they should only communicate to Kenyans through a charge sheet insofar as this matter is concerned, insofar as even those other people who engage in anarchy are concerned, and that we must also, as a government, to be able to deal with the criminal activities at the point of germination and not to allow them to grow into a monster that will eat into so much of government resources to deal with them. It is today, Madam Speaker, we just had a statement in the morning about what is happening in Sudan. The people who are causing those havoc in Sudan are known. Even us in our country, we must have a responsible agencies that should be able to identify criminals and arrest them even before they go to execute the criminal activities, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Deputy Leader of Majority, my very good friend, Honorable Owen Bayer, brought this matter at the right time. And he alluded to the fact that previously before, this Mackenzie was being protected by serious and senior people in government. But today tables have turned. Owen himself is a senior person in this government. He has said he should be arrested, and they should be arrested as such, Madam Speaker. And as I finish, the same way we tolerated this Mackenzie, we are also tolerating Raila and Uhuru Kenyatta. These are the anarchists. They should be arrested before they germinate into a very huge tree that will terrorize this country. I support, Madam Speaker.
Member for Malindi. There is no one on his feet, Honorable Wanjala. Member for Malindi.
Asante sana. Asante sana, Bi Speaker. Asante sana.
Member Honorable Wanjala, take your seat. Member for Malindi, endelea. Member for Malindi, please continue. Honorable Wanjala, you have been a nuisance the whole afternoon and you are out of order.
Mheshimiwa Spika na viongozi wenzangu, Mheshimiwa Spika, na kushukuru kwa kunipatia fursa hii kama mbunge wa Malindi niweza kutoa hoja zangu 2-3 kuhusiana na yale masuala ambayo yanakumba constituency yangu na constituency ya Magarini, Kilifi County kwa ujumla. Mheshimiwa Spika, mwanzo nitoe risala zangu za rambirambi kwa wale watu wote na familia zao ambao wameweza kupoteza maisha yao kwa huyu Pastor Mackenzie ambaye ako na itikada kali ambazo sisi kama wananchi wa Kenya hatuwezi kukubali. Mheshimiwa Spika, nichukue pia fursa hii nimshukuru ndugu yangu Owen Bayer kwa sababu sisi sote tunatoka Kilifi County na anajua pia yeye imemuuma vile jinsi ambavyo watu wetu wameweza kufa, wameweza kupoteza maisha yao kupitia huyu Pastor Mackenzie. Mheshimiwa Spika, kitu ambacho kinaniuma mimi kama mjumbe na kama mama na umwa na roho, Mheshimiwa Spika, nikifikiria ni wanawake wangapi na ni watoto wangapi ambao wamekufa pasipo na hatia, wamepoteza maisha yao pasipo na hatia. Kuna watu ambao saizi wanatamani uhai. Kuna watu ambao wako na kiu huko waliko, wanataka kutoka warudi hapa duniani ili waweze kuona watu wao na kuweza kuangalia familia zao. Inanisikitisha leo hii na napinga vikali hili jambo ambalo Pastor Mackenzie ameweza kulifanya. Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi katiba yetu inaturuhusu uhuru wa kuabudu. Lakini matatizo ni lazima tuseme pale ambapo yalipo. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba kuna watu ambao wanajaribu kubadilisha na wanajaribu kupoteza watu kwa sababu ya uhuru wa kuabudu wenye ambao iko katika katiba yetu. Na mimi ninapozungumza hivi nasema hivi, Mheshimiwa Spika, si watu wa Malindi ama Kilifi County peke yake ambao wameathirika. Ukiangalia vizuri Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna watu ambao wametoka Kisii, watu ambao wametoka Kisumu, watu ambao wametoka Taita Taveta. Kwa hivyo hili ni jambo lenye ambalo limebeba kila Mkenya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na niendelee kwa kusema, haya si matatizo ya kwamba mtu amesoma ama mtu hajasoma, Mheshimiwa Spika. Haya ni matatizo ambayo yanakumba Wakenya wote, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na hili jambo la madhehebu ambao wako na misimamo mikali, Mheshimiwa Spika, niwakumbushe Wakenya wenzangu, kuna dadangu mmoja mrembo sana aliyesoma, Mheshimiwa Spika, na huyu dada anaitwa Esther Arunga. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwa sababu ya masuala kama haya tumepoteza a very talented lady, Mheshimiwa Spika. na wakati ule sisi kama Wakenya tulinyamaza na hatukuchukua hatua yoyote. Mheshimiwa Spika, na hili ni jambo lenye ambalo haliangalii dini moja, na ndio maana mimi nasimama hapa kusema tukumbuke sisi kama Wakenya wakati wa Garissa University attack pale mwaka wa 2015, tukumbuke Westgate Mall attack. Haya matatizo yote ama hivi vitendo vyote vilitokana pia na masuala ya msimamo mkali na utikadi mkali ambao watu wanatumia kwa upande wa religion ama upande wa dini, na ndio wanazidi kupoteza watu wetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nataka niseme hivi, kuna dada mwingine ambaye ni mhudumu wa ndege ameweza kuacha kazi yake. Mwanamke ambaye ako na kazi yake, ako na pesa zake, ameacha kazi yake, ameuza kila kitu na amekwenda kutoanisha pesa zake zote kwa pasta. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hili ni jambo la kusikitisha.
Muda wako umekwisha, Mheshimiwa Amina. Nafasi hapa hatuwezi kuongeza. Huu mjadala ni dakika 5, hakuna kupitisha hata nukta moja. Mheshimiwa Walurambi, uko kwa kipasa sauti.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker. I've been waiting for this chance because I'm a bishop of the Cornerstone Ministries, and I've been preaching for the last 32 years. Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate the Deputy Majority Leader for bringing the adjournment motion, because this is a very important issue for us to discuss as a parliament, because it has captured the attention of our entire country. Madam Speaker, even we have people from my own constituency of Lurambi who have died. And right now we are fundraising to bring the bodies back to Kakamega. Honorable Speaker, when I was registering our church way back in 1996, it was not easy. It took us 5 to 6 years to get registered. The NIS was always on the ground to do a thorough investigation and get proper intel concerning the church with the people that were applying for the registration, our intentions. And that has been watered down over time, because if you go down to those organizations and churches that were registered around that time in the 90s, in the 80s, for example, let me not talk about the mainstream churches like the ACK, the Catholic Church, but if you look at other churches like the Redeemed Gospel Church, Deliverance Church, and other ministries that came, have carried themselves with great integrity because there was a threshold. When you look at the work that the NIS is doing right now, there is some kind of a shoddy work that has been done in terms of intel gathering before a church is registered. Madam Speaker, it was not easy to register a church during the days of President Moi. President Moi himself was a churchman. He had nothing against the church, but it was tight so that before they register a religious organization, they know the people that are going to run this church, they know the agenda of this organization before they can put it on paper and license that church to operate. Now, I understand, and when we read the Constitution, freedom of worship, we do have it in Kenya. But we that are here in Parliament, including even the head of state, and all these government agencies, honestly, our hands are tied. The fate of Mackenzie is in the court, because one of the problems we have, Madam Speaker, I propose, and I would propose going forward in any gatherings, that we go back to NCCK. We have religious bodies that should regulate the church. The church cannot be regulated by government. It cannot. Because you see, preaching is a call. And how somebody executes that calling, it will be seen when they are out there. For example, I have seen a video where a woman comes before a male pastor. So the male pastor begins to say, receive, receive, receive. Receive on the chest of the woman. Receive, receive. And the woman begins to fall. She begins to receive. She begins to receive. She begins to receive. And there she goes, Pungulio, she has received. How do you arrest that pastor where there's no complainant? And that's why the church receive. Receive. Madam Speaker, receive. The church will only, Madam Speaker, receiving is so much here. Honorable Ngeno is so happy to receive. Madam Speaker, we must strengthen NCCK and other bodies so that they can regulate the church. And if we, thank you, they receive.
Bishop, I'm not sure what they are receiving, but maybe I'll give the member for Masabi to tell us whether she has received anything.
Thank you, Madam. I struggled to receive the mic, but I'm not ready to receive any other thing. Madam Speaker, thank you very much for allowing me to add my voice to this very important motion of adjournment on mysterious killings of people in Shakahola. Madam Speaker, this is a very serious matter that we are discussing, where already over 90 lives have been lost and maybe many more to come. So as a country, this is worse than a massacre. This is worse than COVID-19 that took people. This is worse because even COVID-19, did not register that number of people within a day. This is worse than cancer or any other killer disease that is in the world today. When we talk of a single person who has exploited people under the name of religion, and in our today's world, where every human being is working hard to receive eternal life or to be right with his or her maker, others are busy exploiting people just because of their greed. Madam Speaker, I say they are greed because I have watched Paul Mackenzie's video and it looks normal. I'm sure that will be, of course, will be tested and we will soon know whether he's normal or whether he has some psychiatric problems. But from what you see, he looks okay, and he has exploited many people. He started his church back in 2003, and after today, he has been in that practice. So my question is, how many lives have been lost in his hand? And the other question is, normally when a church is started, there are many other small churches or branches all over the country. And that is why today I stand to say that it is high time for our government now to put proper investigation in place and know where this kind of practice has been happening in the entire country. Madam Speaker, we have also known that it is not only the people of Kilifi who have suffered in his hand, but many other Kenyans. And so it is good for us now to say, maybe the people who have been disappearing without anybody knowing where they have gone might have suffered in the hands of Paul. Madam Speaker, I mourn with the people who have lost their lives, and especially the young people and the women who have suffered in the hands of this person. And as I said clearly, it is purely because of his greed. And allow me to quote a Bible verse as I speak, because what we have seen is pure exploitation and as a result of greed. In 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 3, the Bible says, "And in their greed they will exploit you with false words, And those are the same words that Paul has used to exploit people. As I mourn with the people who have died and lost their lives, and as I sympathize with the others who are just about or have been rescued and struggling with their lives, I also mourn with the life of the woman who lost her life yesterday and was killed mysteriously by some attackers in Marsabit town, and a mother of 3, a woman of 38. And my question is, for how long will Kenyans bury innocent women, innocent souls in the hands of the evil doers? Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support this.
Thank you. Member for Seme.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was the second person in this chamber, and I know I actually put my card early, but thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, this is a national calamity. This is a national issue. The people who have died are not just from Lamu or Malindi, they are from across the country, as far as Siaya, all across the country. Let me start by passing my condolences to these families. Madam Speaker, we have actually 3 issues here that we have to look at. The mental issue and mental status of the people who do these things. We have the security issues that we as a country should put in place. Then there's the regulation, the legal framework under which churches work. I think, Madam Speaker, these are the areas we should look up. These people who do these things, they are not pastors, even if they go in the name of pastors. These are actually people with personality disorders. Most of them are psychopaths, extremely intelligent and manipulative. And it's not only in Kenya, it has happened, the American case that somebody was talking about, actually 900 people died. In Uganda, I think there were over 400. And they devised how people die. The people that are the victims are actually people who are vulnerable. And the process is the process of indoctrination and mass hypnosis. So that even if you were to find these people before it happens, even if you are to remove this person, unless you get rid of him, these people will follow them and do what they want. That's the situation we are in. In the American one, they were actually given drinks, and they pray as they take the drinks and die. In the Ugandan one, they all prayed and went into church and kept the church alive. And they don't even want to be removed. So these psychopaths have to be dealt with. And they pick people who are vulnerable. It has nothing to do with wealth. It has nothing to do with education. People are vulnerable mentally. And when people are in severe psychological situations, they get more vulnerable. So they have to be protected. And that, in a situation like ours, where we are getting a high prevalence of mental ill health, more people become vulnerable to these people. The second issue we should look at, Madam Speaker, the security system. How can these people cannot be picked? As far as 2017, a children's officer noticed that the children who are in this religion were actually not being taken for treatment. That's normally very common. They detach you from all support systems. Nothing was done. You can hear the police was aware, nothing was done. In these cases, some of these people were reported missing. And we ask ourselves, in this country, when people are reported missing, even when people die, nobody takes keen interest to investigate, to go into details until you find out what has actually happened. Because if these things had actually been followed in detail, we would have stumbled on this thing much, much earlier. The state intelligence, how come in a village, in a whole area, this cannot be picked? There is negligence on our part in this matter. Madam Speaker, the next thing we should look at is the regulation and the monitoring of churches. The churches are registered under the Societies Act. It is time we asked, Madam Speaker, should we look at another act to actually regulate the churches? How do we monitor what the churches do? All enterprises in the country, whether it is health or what, there are systems that monitor what you do, how you behave. We can pick these people if the churches were monitored. There are actually people who are pastors, people who are religious, but this zealot, this psychopath can actually be picked if you are the system who can pick them, even when they are pretending to be churches, and get them away from the people.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. Your time is up. Member for Matuga.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika. Ni kwa huzuni sana kwamba inabidi tuahirishe shughuli za kawaida ya bunge tuzungumzie hoja ambayo ingekuwa inazuilika endapo sote kama Wakenya, sote kama viongozi tungekuwa tumewajibika vilivyo. Nchi hii ya Kenya ni nchi ambayo inajivunia kwamba ni nchi ya kidini. Wako wachache labda ambao watasema hawamwamini Mungu ama hawana dini, lakini wengi ni wale ambao kwanza tunajua kwamba katika nchi hii ya Kenya Wakristo ndio wengi, kisha Waislamu na Wahindi. Na imetokea kwamba watu wanatumia dini vibaya ama masuala ya dini vibaya. Saa hizi tunazungumzia kwamba eti kuna mchungaji alitumia kwamba watu wafunge hadi kufa, ambao ni fasting. Tumemaliza sisi Waislamu siku 30 za kufunga. Na funga hayui mtu. Funga ni tiba. Funga inatibu magonjwa mengi ya kisukari, ya moyo, ya mafuta mwilini. Funga inakupatia uzima mwilini. Na hivyo ndivyo ilivyo katika dini zote, sio za Kiislamu lakini hata kwa Kristo ambao pia hufunga. Lakini sasa unakuta kwamba katika hawa watu ambao malengo yao aidha, manake huwa sikuua hasa, malengo yao huwa ni kujitajirisha kwa haraka, na wanapata nafasi hiyo kwa sababu wengi wetu, najua hata viongozi wamepoteza pesa kwa sababu ya kupeana mapasta wale wahubiri eti pesa zao zitaongezeka kwa ghafla. Si muda mrefu tulikuwa kuna mmoja alikuwa akipanda mbegu, yeye alikuwa haui mtu, lakini kitambo ya jitajirishe, wale wanaotoa wanatamaa kwamba wao nao watatajirika, na ili hali tunajua hakuna njia ambayo unaweza kujitajirisha haraka ikiwa hutakuwa na mtaji aidha wa kufanya kazi ama kufanya biashara. Sasa hivi tunazungumzia swala la Shakahola, na ndugu zangu wale ambao walikuwa nasema kwamba wakilaumu serikali kwamba eti ni kijiji, pengine wangejifahamisha kwamba eneo hili la Shakahola ni ekari 800. Ekari 800 tutasema labda karibu ni mji mzima wa Nairobi. Kwa hivyo sio mahali rahisi wa kusema askari walikuwa wapi, polisi walikuwa wapi, ikiwa unazungumzia eneo kubwa la ekari 800 ambalo ni msitu. Huyu bwana alienda pale kama mkulima, na ndio maana akaweza kununua hii shamba, akaweka bwawa la maji kwa sababu ili kujificha. Kwa hivyo haikuwa rahisi, na tusilaumiane kwamba serikali ingeweza kumjua huyu bwana, lakini tatizo ni sisi ambao tuko huku nje tukiambiwa kwamba kuna mhubiri ambaye anaweza kufanya wewe upate fedha haraka. Hapo ndio tatizo iliyoko. Sidhani kama kuna mtu yeyote ambaye kwa imani yake anakubali kwamba akifa ama akijiua ndio ataenda mbinguni. Hakuna kitabu, sio cha Kiislamu, sio cha Biblia, ambacho kinaruhusu mtu kujiua endapo mtu ataweza kuisoma dini yake yeye mwenyewe na kujaribu kuielewa. Lakini mara nyingi ni masuala ya kuwa Mimi na fedha zangu nikienda pale naahidiwa kwamba nitaombewa niweze kupata fedha zaidi. Nikimalizia, pastor na ni bishop, sitamalizia bila kuzungumzia Yesu wa Tongereni ambaye yuko huko kwako. Huyu bwana anajiita Yesu na mnamkubali kule. Na naye ana itikadi kama hizi. Tunangojea watu waanze kufa ndio tulaumu serikali na kulaumu machifu. Kwa hivyo suluhisho ni kwamba serikali iweze kuorodhesha makanisa na dini zote. Na pili, endapo kuna mtu anajitwika majukumu ambayo tunajua si yake kama Mungu ama Yesu, moja kwa moja aweze kukabiliwa kabla maafa yapatikane. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na nampongeza Owen Baya kwa kuleta hii hoja.
Thank you. Member for Kisii.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Mackenzie arrested, Mackenzie released. Mackenzie arrested, Mackenzie released. It's only this Mackenzie who is being arrested, having done a criminal thing, and being released. Several of these things, Madam Speaker, do happen. Yesterday I was in Kisii for a charity function. I received a plea from a woman whose only daughter was defiled. She reported the matter to the police station. Now she's not a victim. The victim, the suspect, is loitering around. The victim now, the mother and the daughter, are being investigated. You can imagine. We let go of the culprits and we start investing on the victims, which is very wrong. Now, when we look at the story of Pastor Mackenzie, we realize that several of these pastors, they come with very sweet names. I'm Ronnie, I'm Pastor Ronnie. When the congregation hear that, they are flying high, just praising the name. Leave alone the name of the church. Well-wishers Pentecostal Church, Revival what? With these funny names. And they clap high, they celebrate. The pastor comes in, I flew out of the country with my dog, Rambo, and they clap. Those are the things that our members, the Kenyans, are enticed with. They are brainwashed. They don't even think. I saw a video of a woman who was being rescued, Madam Speaker. She said, allow me to die. Pastor Mackenzie said, I'm going to heaven. Please don't take me to hospital. Please don't give me food. I looked at that woman and wondered, what kind of weed has she taken? How did this Pastor Mackenzie manage to convince the congregants that you can't even go for medication, that you give all that you have? You see, Madam Speaker, there's this common thing. When you are in church, you are told, release yourself. Set yourself free. And you are at this mood of releasing yourself. You release everything. You release your properties. Release yourself, Madam Speaker. Release has made people mad. People are not thinking and receive. You are receiving. You are being touched. You are receiving. Members of Parliament, receive. They receive, Madam Speaker. What they are receiving, they can't even tell. It's like you ask our people, I come from Kisii, Madam Speaker. You ask them, why do you even celebrate FGM? They'll tell you, we don't know, but we are told this is what we have to go through. And nowadays, it's not even done by the traditional excisors. Doctors are doing it. And you want to tell me that the government is not aware? Most of these things, the government is aware. Like, where were the chiefs? 90 bodies. People being rescued from the forest. Sometimes even try to go collect firewood from the forest. You'll be arrested. But bodies are found in the forest. People are rescued from the forest. This is very sad, Madam Speaker. The people are misusing the church. People are being misled, and we are watching. Things happen. People are killing each other. No one is talking. You report defilement cases at the police station, nothing happens. People are robbed. You report to the police station. Then the culprits will tell you, you are just wasting your time because I will use my money to set myself free. So Mackenzie will use his money to set himself free. We are just talking, I don't know, but that man, Mackenzie released, Mackenzie arrested, Mackenzie released. Mackenzie released, Mackenzie arrested. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Kaloleni.
Asante Bi Speaker kwa kunipatia muda huu. Kwanza kwa niaba ya wakazi wa Kaloleni, kwa niaba ya mimi mwenyewe na familia yangu, nataka nitoe rambirambi kwa familia ambazo zimepoteza watu wao. Bi Speaker, hili ni janga la kitaifa. Kwa sababu hatuwezi kupoteza watu zaidi ya 90. Huyu Pastor Mackenzie amejulikana tangu mwaka 2017. Na ni kwa nini mimi bado ninalaumu vyombo na vitengo vya usalama? Bi Speaker, tuko na wazee, tuko na mabalozi wa nyumba 10. Tuko na wazee wa mitaa na masabchifu ambao kila wakati hupeleka ripoti za ujasusi ili kujua serikali kunafanyika nini. Lakini kwa sababu hatujakuwa na thamani na hawa wazee wa mitaa na mabalozi wa nyumba 10, ndio tumefikia pale tulipo. Nchi hii inatawalwa na sheria na katiba. Na tunajua katika nchi yetu kuna uhuru wa kuabudu. Lakini sijaona kuna uhuru wa kuambia watu wafe ili wamuone Mungu. Tumesikia Mackenzie yuko na watoto 17. Wanaishi maisha ya kifahari. Yeye mwenyewe hajafunga na hajakufa. Ni rahisi Bi Speaker kutoa mfano kwa kitu chochote, lakini ni vigumu zaidi wewe mwenyewe kwa mfano. Angekuwa kweli anataka kuonyesha mfano bora, watu wasikule chakula ili wafe wamuone Mungu, angekuwa wa kwanza kufanya nini? Kufunga na kufa. Hili ni kosa la jinai, na huyu anatakana kufunguliwa mashtaka kule Holanzi ya mauaji ya halaiki. Na ni jambo la kutamausha. Baadhi ya hawa ambao wanajiita mapasta wameona njia ya kujitajirisha ni kufungua makanisa. Na ni jambo ambalo hawa baada ya kujitayarisha wao hutumia pesa zao na kujiweka mbele katika serikali. Utawaona mahali serikali ipo wanajiingiza pale wakisema kwamba wao wanaomba, lakini wanajificha ili matendo yao ya kinyama kishetani yasijulikane. Bi Speaker, mimi ni Mkatoliki na ninataka nishukuru kongamano la maaskofu wa Katoliki kwamba sasa muda umefika wa kufanya sheria ili kuangalia ni makanisa gani ambayo yanafanya nini, yanatumika. Kule kwangu kuna watu wanajiita waombezi. Anakuja na hawa waombezi wameharibu familia nyingi za watu. Anaweza kuja aseme bibi yako anakuroga ama nani wako ni mchawi. Familia zinakosana. Ni vipi binadamu wa kawaida unaweza kuuza mali yako yote? Umesikia? Mtu aliuza mali yake akapata milioni 50, amempelekea pasta, alafu yeye anaenda jangwani msituni akaombe ili afe. Hili ni jambo ambalo linataka kuchunguzwa. Na ni kwa nini Bi Speaker tunajiuliza maswali mengi ambayo hayana majibu. Huyu pasta mhalifu alipataje ekari 800 ikiwa serikali haijui matendo yake? Eka 800, mimi hata sijafikisha eka 3. Lakini yeye yuko na eka 800 ambapo anazika watu ndani ya msitu na watu hawajui. Ni muda sasa tunataka watu wachunguzwe, hawa mapasta, nyendo zao na itikadi zao kali ambazo zimeleta maafa katika nchi hii. Na unasikia kuna huyu Yesu ambaye amepatikana huku wapi? Tongoreni. Sasa huyu Yesu asiposimamishwa sahihi, tutakuja kupata maafa haya ambayo tunayazungumzia kuhusu huyu Pastor Mackenzie. Asante Bi Speaker kwa kunipa muda.
Asante mbunge wa Thika.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, first is to thank Honorable Baya for coming up with this motion so that we can even speak of other matters that had come to our attention but did not have this platform. Madam Speaker, people were expecting Mackenzie to be remorseful when he was being arrested. But what we don't know, this gentleman has killed over 90, if not 100 people. So he doesn't see anything big. And the same way he has brainwashed all those people, he thinks it's the same way he's going to brainwash all of us. And since he was arrested since 2017 and released and arrested and released as late as March of this year, so to him, he doesn't see anything wrong with what the members were doing in his church. Honorable Speaker, Mackenzie, people can say he's sick. What he has taken, for you to take advantage of people or people who you stay with, there's one thing you do. You pretend to love so that these people can become vulnerable. That is the only time you can be able to touch their hearts. So this Mackenzie knew the language where these people would understand. But that has not put Mackenzie alone, because I don't think in his high level, if people are listening to him like that, it means he has other followers who are doing his dirty job. Why am I saying this? All those graves cannot be dug by one man. It means Mackenzie has his own foot soldiers. Once you die, who is going to bury you? So when we were arresting and seeing Mackenzie being arrested alone yesterday, it baffled me, because why arrest him alone, and yet you are showing us the many graves that these people were being buried, and even as late as today, by last night, there were 73. Right now, we are approaching 100. And if you see from the desk from Red Cross, we have seen those still missing are 200 plus. What these fake clergies are doing, because they are fake, because they are good one, first they are inflicting fear. But if people read the Bible very well, 2 Timothy 1:7 says, the Lord has not given you a spirit of fear, but of sound mind. So if you go to church and you feel you don't have sound mind, then you know you are in the wrong places. And when we are discussing this Mackenzie, there are so many other Mackenzie all over, even our nation. Those ones who rob people broad daylight in the name of church. And we are not talking about it. Even as honorable members, we are not talking about it. Why? You are going to be hated by the clergy from your area. No, let us call out those who are not good. Even the clergy themselves, they also know those ones who are fake. They need to call them out and call them as they are: thugs, terrorists, murderers. Because if you go somewhere and you take young children and mothers who are vulnerable, tell them, tarumbeta iko karibu kupigwa, parapanda ndio hiyo, Mwenyezi Mungu anarudi. And you know, they know that this country is a religious country. People love God. So everybody will be holding like this. Because when you hear from what they are saying that is New Jerusalem. Mackenzie, I don't know what name they have given Mackenzie. So those ones who are going there, they are already vulnerable. You are told don't eat, your children don't eat. You die as we watch you, and they tell you you are going to heaven. Yet Mackenzie is not dying. Yet the foot soldiers are not dying. Yet Mackenzie's wife is not dead. But these people are not asking those questions because of fear. He has inflicted fear on these people. They are not even thinking. They are not even themselves. So what we are going to do as honorable members of this house, if you go back home and you hear there is that church, hakuna uchaguzi wa 2023, uchaguzi ni wa 2027. It is a high time we call them out to help our people back at home. Otherwise, we are going to hear this thing like we had in Thika, a food wakili.
Your time is up, Honorable Ngelechei.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I also want to contribute to the motion, and let me appreciate the Member of Parliament for bringing it to us so that we can debate and discuss about it, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, when you see the way some churches and some people are operating the likes of Mackenzie, it is about, very soon we are going to categorize religion as some of the emerging threats of security. Every now and then, people keep reviewing the threats of security. At times, the latest threat of security being climate change, terrorism, cybercrime. But very soon, if we go at this pace, which, Madam Speaker, religion will be added in the list of emerging security threats. This is because, Madam Speaker, how can one person, in the name of religion, manage to kill, because actually that person has led those people to death, more than 90 people, 90 and still counting, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's about time the government also and the people of the Republic of Kenya, those with sound mind, should stand and defend those people who are ignorant and innocent. Because you find some of these followers, Madam Speaker, who follow blindly religion are either illiterate people, semi-illiterate people. They are people who are very desperate. And Madam Speaker, at times, those of us who have sound mind, some of these religious leaders, Madam Speaker, are either people who are depressed, some have suffer from mental illnesses, some are con men, some have criminal records, and most of them are not straight people in life, Madam Speaker. They have a history of conning people or a history of doing some weird things, Madam Speaker. And at times I keep wondering, why do those people with sound mind, upright people, fear to confront them? We have so many examples of religious leaders who do similar things with the Pastor Mackenzie. But you find that people fear to call them out. Probably because they fear, there is fear of the unknown. At times we may be fearing that they are so much surrounded with supernatural powers, imaginary powers, that we fail to call them out. But when it comes to a point whereby somebody leads innocent children, and some of the followers who go following, you find that they are illiterate people, maybe they are very, very poor, they are desperate people, miserable people. Some add to those churches in search of solutions to problems, Madam Speaker. What I'm trying to say is we should actually find a way of protecting those people who find help but end up in wrong hands, thinking that they are going to be helped, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have so many other leaders, spiritual leaders, but you find in this house today, because we are debating about Mackenzie, we also fear to call them. But they have led to misery, and they have led people to be from bad to worse. There are some leaders, Madam Speaker, who start by brainwashing people that for you to go to heaven, you must leave all the earthly things. But don't leave them where you are. Take it to them. Why do they need it if at all they want to go to heaven, Madam Speaker? You find others tell people to leave things they treasure, to leave their children, to leave their families, to leave their work and go and follow them. Some people, Madam Speaker, have found a way of swindling people. And one of the issues that Mr. Mackenzie should be charged with is swindling and misleading people. Because you find he has misled some people, and some children are now feared dead, and some people have even lost children, they have lost their property, and he should be held responsible. Madam Speaker, I just want to urge this House that let us be in forefront in calling out what is wrong. Let us not fear. I don't believe that there is a supernatural.
Thank you. Your time is up. Member for Kilgoris.
Madam Speaker, in this matter of Pastor Mackenzie, I think we should lay burden on two people. The first is the Christian himself. Madam Speaker, it is very sad that this is happening to the Church of Christ. Because when Christ left, he left a very solid church. Unfortunately, there was a split between what became the Catholic Church and the Eastern Church. And later on, we developed the split from Luther and developed the huge category of Christianity called Protestantism. And it is particularly this branch of Protestantism that has been splintering a lot. And Madam Speaker, in the early days, there used to be a category of Christians called the defenders of the faith. And I think that that is the category that we need today. Because even in those early days, there was the rise of heretism. There were people who were spreading heresies, false teachings about the religion of Christ. And the church itself had to deal with this situation. It is also true to say that today, you do not hear a lot from the church themselves actually denouncing the faiths that these people are trying to teach. Because these new teachings are so heretical that they need to be denounced. As a honorable colleague, Honorable Ngeleche has just said, part of the problem we have is that we have placed some fear in these people. We think that they actually they are actually people who have some power that they can influence against us. But the church itself must guard the faith, because the Church of Christ has been used by people to divert themselves away from the original teachings. If we can have a good teaching of Christianity today, as it was in the early days, these heresies cannot develop. And I agree, if the church does not stop the so-called Jesus of Tongaren, and I'm happy myself that he has not proclaimed himself to be Jesus of Nazareth, but he cannot be ignored because of the other reason. The second person to be given responsibility here is the government. Madam Speaker, it is true that government cannot regulate Christianity, cannot regulate religion. But there is something that the government can do. I know that in 2015, we tried some regulations called the Religious Societies Regulations of 2015. And under those regulations, a cleric had to produce a certificate of good conduct. He had to produce certificates. He had to prove himself to be worth the salt. But if we do not have a law that is going to protect members of society who do not necessarily belong to that religion, people will continue to be producing their religions at will. That law required every religion to have a constitution to say what kind of things it is going to teach the people. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, twisted, perverted religion is on the rise. And today we have psychopaths actually coming up and calling themselves bishops, calling themselves preachers, and a religion that is attached to olive oil that is supposed to perform miracles. I think, Madam Speaker, this religion needs to be regulated by the law. And in a country, and I've had a good advantage of presiding over the security of this country, that prides itself with the best intelligence available. It is inconceivable that this did happen under the watch of this government. And I wish Honorable Ishungwa was here, because there's a terminology that is commonly used as a former regime. I think I'll get opportunity to dispute the use of that term, former regime, by people who belong to Jubilee, because they were the former regime. And Madam Speaker, all of us should look at this thing, former regime or present regime, and make sure we condemn and prevent this from happening. I therefore support.
Honorable members, I realize the interest in this motion, and I've been having a problem with some members because, like, Honorable Wanjala was not in my list, actually, and he was actually getting agitated, and he was not in my list. So, yeah, I'm just explaining. Honorable member for Dagoretti South, you're up.
Honorable member, I thank you. Honorable Speaker, I thank you. I also want to thank the Honorable Owen Bayer for bringing this to the House. Madam Speaker, the good book tells us that the good Lord told us that I come so that I may have life, so that you may have life and life in abundance. Madam Speaker, if these people are preaching the good gospel of God, they would not be preaching death. They would not be leading people to destruction. We are told that it is the devil who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. This man by the name of Mackenzie is actually a deranged criminal, Madam Speaker, and should never once be referred to as a pastor. Madam Speaker, I'd like to bring it to the attention of this House that if anyone is preaching...
Order.
Madam Speaker.
Order, member for Dagoretti South. What is your point of order, Honorable Millie?
Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm just worried about the comment you have made where you are saying there are people who are not on your list. Because when I checked up more than an hour ago, I was about number 20. And more than an hour later, I don't know if I disappeared from the list. It will be good for us to know if you're on the list or not, so that if you are not, we can do other things. Thank you, Madam.
Members, we have some of you in the list. It's only that I cited Honorable Wanjala. That is why I had to call him to the table to see for himself, so that he doesn't say I'm not giving him. But some of you, I know the interest is huge. If we give Honorable KJ, then maybe a few more members will speak.
Madam Speaker, I request that you reset my clock so that I preserve my time, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I had said that the good book teaches us that the good Lord tells us that he came so that we may have life and life in abundance. That if anyone is preaching about the good gospel, they would know that it is the devil who comes to kill, steal, and destroy. This man in the name of Mackenzie is actually a deranged criminal, and he must be recorded as such, Madam Speaker. No one should refer to this Mackenzie man in any way as a pastor, Mr. Speaker. That would be sacrilegious, it would be evil, even to the men of the cloth, like Bishop Kamala, who are practicing the good ministry of the good Lord. It would be an insult for them to be clustered together with a criminal like Mackenzie, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Bible tells us that you shall know them by their fruits. The fruits of this man are evident. 90 lives so far are lost, Madam Speaker. We are digging up more bodies as we go on. When I listen to the conversation in Kenya today, everybody is finger pointing. It is easier to pass the blame. We are a house, Madam Speaker, that is mandated by the Constitution to attend to all matters affecting Kenyans and to resolve them, Madam Speaker. This house shall not be able to kick the can further down the road, Madam Speaker. This house will have to do something. What is in our hands, Madam Speaker? What is in our hands is the power to legislate. This house will have to rise up, Madam Speaker, and start legislating on these societies on these NGOs, on these bodies that are being formed in the name of churches, Madam Speaker. We shall have to put laws that shall hold people accountable. And if they are criminals, Madam Speaker, they shall have to answer to the penal code. Madam Speaker, there is no room for hiding our heads in the sand anymore. It is not only Pastor Mackenzie who is doing things out there, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there are people who are even hiding in established churches, Madam Speaker. We know of people who are calling themselves bishop, who are stealing land out of people, Madam Speaker, stealing money. Kiambu has been a culprit, has been a victim of people calling themselves bishop and running away with a lot of money, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to end it, Madam Speaker, but I wish you would have preserved my time because the interruption was unfair and rude. Madam Speaker, I would want to say that the church will have to step up. The Swahili say, nazibovu harabu ya nzima. Even the established churches, established ministries will have to stand up, condemn this act, but more so clean up their act in their own ministries, in their own churches, because the faith is being lost.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Member for Jomvu.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia na mimi fursa hii ili kuweza kuchangia. Kwanza Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa niaba yangu na niaba ya watu wangu wa Jomvu, nachukua fursa hii kutoa rambirambi zetu katika watu wa Malindi kwa ile mkasa, kwa ile maafa ambayo yameweza kutokea. Pili, Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kumpongeza Mheshimiwa Owen Baya kwa sababu ya kuleta jambo kama hili. Kwa sababu ni muda, kama ingelikuwa sio yeye kuleta jambo kama hili, hatungekuwa tunaweza kulizungumzia. Mimi nataka kusema kitu kimoja. Katika huyu Pastor Mackenzie, hata sijui tuongea story nyingi za nini. Kwa sababu huyu ameleta maafa sio ya watu 100. Nilivyofanya uchunguzi wangu, nasikia alikuja kule Malindi kutoka mwaka 2003. Hatujui watu kutoka siku hiyo mpaka leo ni watu wangapi ambao ameweza kuua. Kwa hivyo yawezekana kuwa ni zaidi 500, 600, hata 700. Kwa hivyo huyu mtu hafai hata kuzunguka katika dunia hii. Alafu la pili, Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kuzungumzia kuhusu watu kufuata dini sawa sawa. Kwa sababu katika Biblia Mathayo 7:7 yasema, ombeni na mtapewa, tafuteni na mtapata, na mubishe na mtafunguliwa. Na vile vile nataka kuzungumza maneno haya nikikoti katika Bible. Ni kumaana kuwa hawa watu wangelikuwa wanafuata Biblia vizuri kisawasawa, hawangeweza kudanganywa na kuekwa akili zao kuambiwa kwa wafunge mpaka waweze kujiua wao wenyewe. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo jingine la muhimu ambalo mimi nataka niseme, katika mambo ya ujasusi, National Intelligence Service, kuna kitengo ambacho kinashughulikia mambo ya trade union. Kuna kitengo ambacho kinashughulikia mambo ya wanasiasa. Kuna kitengo ambacho kinashughulikia mambo ya dini, ambayo ndio wakati wa nyuma walikuwa wakipeleka salamu katika idara ya upelelezi kule Mombasa, watu wakaweza kufuatwa mpaka msikiti Musa. Mimi mpaka saa hizi nataka kusema vitengo vyote hivi vimelala. Kile kitengo ambacho chafanya kazi zaidi ni hiki cha kufuata tu wanasiasa. Lakini vitengo vya ujasusi vyatakana vijue wafanyi biashara wafanya nini, waumini wanaoomba wanafanya mambo gani, na mambo yote yanayotokea katika nchi. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi sikubaliani ya kusema ati ekari ilikuwa ni 800, kwa hivyo ilikuwa ni msitu mkubwa, hawakujua watu wafanya nini. Serikali hata msitu uwe na ekari 8,000 wala ngapi, ni muhimu kila doti ya mahali ya nchi kujua kuwa kunaendelea kitu gani. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukenda kule Lamu, kuna mahali kunaitwa Majlis, hoteli moja mzuri sana. Kuna mzungu mmoja Mwamerika ambaye alikuwa ni mlemavu, alishikwa tu kupelekwa Somali, mmoja peke yake alisababisha vita ya kuona kuwa jeshi la Amerika liliweza kuingia Somali kufuata mtu wake. Kwa hivyo leo watu hao waliokufa wote karibu 100, huyu Pastor Mackenzie hastahili kabisa kuwa anazunguka na kupawa bondi za shilingi 100,000. Hili ni jambo ambalo latamausha, kwa sababu ni makosa ambayo yamefanya, na mimi nachukua fursa hii kusema serikali iende na nguvu kubwa sana kuona jambo kama hili siweze kutokea. Na pia mimi naungana na wenzangu juu ya huu Yesu wa Tongereni. Huu Yesu wa Tongereni, mimi ninavyofahamu Yesu wa kuoa, huyu jamaa nasikia wake 4 mpaka hivi sasa. Kwa hivyo huyu Yesu wa Tongereni tumzuie kabla hajatuletea maafa na yeye. Kwa hivyo mimi, Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kusema naungana na wenzangu, kwa sababu ni juzi tu Yesu huyu anataka kusulubiwa wa Tongereni akakimbia polisi. Sasa hivi sasa mimi, Mheshimiwa Spika, naangalia nikisema kuwa asija katuletea maafa kama Kilifi, Yesu wa Tongereni akaya atulie na bibi zake, watu waende makanisani, waende wafanye maombi. Asante, na nawapa pole watu wa Malindi. Shukrani sana.
Member for Likoni.
Asante sana Bispika. Bispika, mimi naanza kusema ya kwamba inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun, na niseme pole sana kwa watu wa Kilifi na Kenya kwa jumla kwa msiba mkubwa kama uno. Waswahili wanasema usipoziba ufa utajenga ukuta. Wakati Mheshimiwa Waziri alipoliangazia swala hili, lau kama serikali ingetilia maanani na kuangalia njia ya kuzuia jambo hili, leo tusingekuwa tuwazungumzia maafa ya zaidi ya watu 90 katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Na hivi sasa lazima tuangalie zile nyumba ambazo tunaambiwa ni nyumba za ibada ambazo zimekuja sasa nyingi sana kwa majina tofauti tofauti. Mheshimiwa Alice amezungumzia wakili ambaye alikuwa akiitwa wakili Magwi, ambaye yeye aliweza kuua mke wake na kumchoma, kuua watoto wake na yeye mwenyewe pia kujiua baada ya kuingizwa katika kanisa na mhubiri mmoja aliyekuwa anajiita Anne Wanjiru. Kwa hivyo sisi wakati tunazungumzia swala hili, tujue hivi sasa kuna madhehebu mengi sana ambayo yamekuja, na tukubali kama Wakenya jambo ambalo linazungumziwa, jambo la Illuminatism, ni jambo ambalo limeingia sana katika taifa letu, na watu wanaingizwa katika mambo ya kishetani wakitumia jina la dini ambapo si kweli. Juzi tu tumeona mwanamke ameweza kumkatakata mtoto na kumdunga visu na kuweza kula vitu vyake vya ndani. Hayo ni mambo ambayo si mambo ambayo zamani yangeweza kufanyika, lakini lazima tujiulize tuko wapi. Na sisi pia kama viongozi tuwe karibu na wapiga kura wetu. Mheshimiwa Owen na waheshimiwa wengine wa Kilifi, mungekuwa kila wakati mko karibu na watu wenu waliwapigia kura na kuwatembelea, jambo hili lingekuwa limejulikana haraka. Haiwezekani maiti zaidi ya 200 iweze kuzikwa na kuna vijana ambao wanawekwa kama security wa kuchunga watu wasitoroke na jambo hili lisijulikane. Hakuna siri ya watu wawili. Ikizidi tu watu wawili, hiyo si siri tena, lazima itajulikana. Ni masikitiko makubwa, tunajiuliza maisha ya Mkenya yako wapi? Wakati unasema kuna uhuru wa kuabudu, ujue pia kuna haki ya Mkenya ya kimaisha, ambayo haki ya Mkenya ya kimaisha lazima ilindwe na lazima ichungwe, na hakuna uhuru ambao hauna kizuizi. Uhuru wowote lazima uwe na kizuizi. Huwezi kuwa na uhuru wa kuabudu katika hali ya kuhujumu wananchi wengine katika maafa kama haya. Ni masikitiko makubwa sana. Tena huyu Pastor Mackenzie akiwa polisi anasema hamjui mnachopigana nacho kitawaramba. Matamshi hayo ni matamshi ambayo yanatuambia kwamba huyu hayuko peke yake, na lazima uchunguzi thabiti uchunguzwe, tujue lile kundi lake ambalo anafanya nalo kazi ama jambo hili la kuhujumu wapi ni kina nani, ama ni watu gani ambao wanampatia nguvu kuweza kufanya jambo hili pasi na kuwa na kigegezi na pasi na kuwa na uoga. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, sasa lazima tuangalie shughuli zile zetu za kidini ziwe zinaangaziwa, ama tuweke ile tunasema kudhibiti, kwa Kiingereza regularization, to regulate mambo ya makanisa, mambo ya nyumba nyingine za kidini. Lazima tu regulate, tujue ya kwamba tutaweka vidhibiti gani ili tujue hizi shughuli zinazofanyika katika nyumba hizi za ibada ni shughuli gani. Tusiangalie tu itikadi kali katika mambo ya Al-Shabaab, lakini tujue itikadi kali ziko katika nyanja nyingi sana. Hata sisi kule kwetu kuna wakati kulikuwa na shekhe fulani anaambia watu wasiende shule, wasisome, na wakisoma watakuwa wanaenda na kinyume cha dini. Kwa hivyo jambo hili liko katika sehemu nyingi sana. Tufungue sana macho yetu na tuangalie sehemu nyingi sana katika mambo ya itikadi kali zinapatikana vipi na zinafanyika vipi. Hata katika taasisi zetu za masomo, taasisi zetu za vyuo vikuu, mambo haya yanafanyika na ndio yanaletea tunaweza kuwa na mambo mabaya kama haya. Mheshimiwa Spika, nasema pole sana kwa jambo hili, kwa tukio hili, kwa wale ambao wamepoteza familia hizi, lakini sasa vikosi maalum vipelekwe pale, kuwekwe fence na kuangaliwe kinaga ubwaga, ijulikane wale wote ambao wamepotea na wote ambao wamezikwa, maiti zao zipatikane, na wale ambao bado wako katika hali mbaya waweze kuokolewa ili waweze kuregesha uhai wao. Nataka niseme, Wakristo wanasema sio wote wanaomwita Bwana watauona ufalme wa mbinguni, na tuna wale ambao ni wachungaji lakini si wachungaji wa ukweli, mitume ya uongo. Kwa hivyo lazima tuwe macho jamani.
Member for Turkana Central.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. I want also to thank Honorable Baya for bringing this up, and thank you for this opportunity. And I also want to send my condolences to the families and friends of those who have lost as a country. Honorable Speaker, the issue at hand is about religion. Religion, when Karl Marx said religion is an opium of the poor or opium of the people, some as at that time were thinking this man was very crazy. But today is when we have realized that people can actually use religion to meet their ends. And religion, even during the time when we were struggling for independence, like the example of Tanzania, the man called Kinjekitile Ngwale, he used holy water and told his followers that the German bullets will be protected by this holy water. Again, when the Europeans or the missionaries came to Kenya, Desmond Tutu, Archbishop, the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, used to say when the missionaries came, they came with the Bible, and they told us to pray, and then we closed our eyes. When we opened our eyes, they had the land, and we remained with the Bible. Actually, I visited Ghana, and when you get to Port Elmina, you will find two scenarios. Above, where the governor used to stay, was a church, and below there was a dungeon. And you see, these are the same people who are preaching religion, but again enslaving Africans. These are the dichotomies that we need to understand, that there is the application of religion. There is the application of religion actually to enslave or to snatch. Again, there is a lot of escapism that our people are trapped into. When we lost Esther Arunga in this country, everyone said maybe she was cast, but there was the aspect of religion. I don't know if it was Placenta Church or Helicopter Church, as at that time, that was involved. And we did not open our eyes, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I may not delve so much into this, but Christianity is losing luster, I will say, because Islam is remaining intact as a religion, but Christianity is being abused and used in this country. If you visit Israel, Honorable Speaker, you will find that Nazareth has only 10% Christianity. The rest is Islam. You go to Bethlehem, 1% Christianity. Maybe because there is something that people are not happy about. And those are issues, Honorable Speaker. But when we come back home, Article 32, that is bringing about the freedom of religion in this country, should be, I will recommend, Honorable Speaker, that we also, as we talk about Article 37, that talks about demonstration picketing, but feasibly and when you are not armed, I will say that we also get into this article number 8 that says there shall be no state, there shall be no state religion. If we can speak from that platform and say, yes, we have no religion as a country, all religions that are in this country are all ours, then we apply the Rwandan way. Honorable Speaker, in Rwanda, Paul Kagame did the right thing. And the persons called pastors or preachers in Rwanda have degrees. But here in Kenya, anyone can just wake up in the morning and start a church. In the case of Mackenzie, will not be the end. There will be others that will mushroom. And Honorable Speaker, it is upon us as this House to help this government to have restrictions.
Mbunge wa Kinango.
Asante Bi Speaker. Naomba niungane na wenzangu na hasa kumshukuru Bwana Owen Baya kwa sababu ya kuleta hoja hii. Lakini mahali fulani ningetaka kutofautiana na wenzangu kutokana na michango ambayo wameifanya hapa, kwa sababu nchi yaomboleza na bado nchi itaendelea kuomboleza kwa sababu msiba huu ulituanza mwaka 2003. Na Bi Speaker, historia vile inavyotuambia ni kwamba Mackenzie alipoanza shughuli hizi, baada ya muda fulani ulipofika mwaka 2016, yuko ndugu Machiro ambaye aliuza mali yake na akamkabidhi karibu milioni 20 na akanunua hata kituo cha TV na akaanza kujitangaza ama kutangaza masala yake yanayohusiana na itikadi ya dini yake, na serikali ilikuweko. Leo nashangaa haya yote yameshatokea, Mackenzie yuko ndani, lakini Mackenzie hastahili kuwa ndani peke yake. Ni lazima tujue wakati Mackenzie alipokuwa akifanya mambo haya mpaka mwaka 2018, Dr. Ezekiel Mutua alipotoa taarifa kwa serikali kwamba kituo hiki cha redio ni muhimu kifungwe kwa sababu ya ujumbe unaotolewa na Pastor Mackenzie, serikali ikaweka mapamba kwenye mashikio, na hata kama alichukuliwa hatua za kuweza kushikwa, inaonekana Mackenzie alikuwa na mkono mrefu kushinda serikali. Sasa inaonekana Mackenzie aliununua uhuru wake, na ndio maana akawa ana uhuru kwa sababu ana redio na ana serikali yake. Ndio maana akawa na uhuru ule wake wa kuweza kufanya yale anayotaka katika nchi hii. Leo jamii zaomboleza kwa sababu wamepoteza wapendwa wao mikononi na machoni mwa serikali. Hakika kuna kitu fulani kinachokoseka. Mackenzie amewahi kushikwa na kupelekwa kotini na kuachiliwa kwa bondi, na mambo haya alikuwa tayari yashaanza kuonekana yakifanyika. Bi Speaker, mpaka sasa bado hati tumefunga macho, tunasema kwamba Mackenzie ni mtu wa kupelekwa mahakamani. Watu kama hawa angekuwa saa hizi ashapatiwa ndege na amepelekwa Uholanzi na mahakama zishafunguliwa ili tuangalie Mackenzie atafikishwa wapi. Si ajabu hivi sasa, kwa sababu katika uzungumzi wa Mackenzie anasema DCIO, fanya uchunguzi wa kutosha na muache kuninyanyasa. Sasa kiasi cha kwamba yeye ati anatafuta uhuru wake wakati ambapo taifa linaomboleza karibu watu 90 ama 100, lakini bado Mackenzie anazungumza na nguvu akisema kwamba DCIO, fanya uchunguzi wako, na kama sitapatikana na hatia, kana kwamba ana imani kwamba vyovyote vile itakavyokuwa itakuwa
ni pale unapofika kotini unaambiwa kwamba ushahidi umekosekana. Watu wamekufa na ushahidi umekosekana, kwa sababu hakuwapiga bunduki. Lakini tulijua kwamba kuna mjumbe fulani anayehubiri kwa kutumia redio, kwa kutumia congregation zake, na watu kuwaumiza kwa kiasi hiki. Lakini sheria ikakosa mwelekeo mpaka ikafika mahali leo hata yale mahakama yaliyomwachilia kuna kesi bado iko pending. Tena tunataka kufungua kesi nyingine tena, hiyo pia nayo ibaki kwa pending. Wale waendelee kuomboleza, Mackenzie aendelee kukaa, kwa sababu kwa nini aliposhikwa mpaka sasa singeambiwa kwamba sasa tunataka tuone demonstration, hatutakupa chakula ukiwa hapa ili tukuone utafika wapi na kutokula. Si wataka kumwona Mungu? Tunakupeleka kwa Mungu haraka. Tumpeleka kotini kufanya kazi gani? Wenzake wamewapeleka biguni, yeye anataka kubaki hapa ardhini kufanya nini? Ni haki yake yeye kule rumande pia aachishwe kula chakula, ambwe sasa tunataka tukuone utaishi namna gani na pesa zile ulizokuwa ukipewa na rasilimali ulizochukua, kwamba ulikuwa unataka kuzipeleka wapi, ili tujue haki imefanyika, kuliko kumbabaisha mahakamani na mwisho tuambie kwamba Paul Ezekiel ameachiliwa kwa sababu ushahidi umekosekana. Amezuka mwingine huko Tongeren, naye pia twampapasa. Alisema watu wasulubiwe, alipambua asulubiwe yeye, akasema kuna umizi. Jamani, tunataka thibitisho la.
Thank you, Honorable Member and Honorable Deputy Majority Leader. Unfortunately, this motion has a lot of interest, but unfortunately our time is up. Order, members. Honorable members, and the time now being 7 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Wednesday, 26th April 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Again, we believe in the next few days, we will be able to have enough evidence to help us take action, including prosecution of the suspect. I think, Honorable Speaker, that is all I have up to now. I remain at the disposal of this House for any supplementary issues, and also with regard to the other questions that are listed in the order paper this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Major Dong, do you have any supplementary to that on behalf of your colleague?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would say that thanks to the Cabinet Secretary for answering the same question, and having originated from the same county, I believe the Cabinet Secretary understands well, and he will be able to deal with that matter conclusively. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That is a comment, Minister. You need not answer. Morugara. Now, those who want to ask supplementaries, you go to interventions, and I'll give only 3.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, the Cabinet Secretary, for that response. But I do have a supplementary question on behalf of the family of the late Willis Mugambi Kiraku as follows. What measures will the government put in place to ensure that the family of the late Willis Mugambi Kiraku, the Boda Boda chairman Tharakanithi, who was fatally shot on the 8th of April 2023, is properly, sufficiently, and adequately compensated for the loss of their kin without undue delay? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, you note the 3 supplementaries that will follow each other, then you answer. Robert Mbui.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Having been a victim of police violence, I think it's important to ask this because I know forensic evidence can show the gun that shot the bullet that killed that young Boda Boda rider, and also very many young boys and girls who were killed during the recent demos. I just wanted to confirm from the CS, are shoot-to-kill orders the acceptable by this regime of Kenya Kwanza that you serve? And do the police bosses understand the Constitution and the right of Kenyans to be able to picket under Article 37? Thank you.
The Honorable Pauline Lenguris, Samburu Women Rep.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I want to conjoin my question to the Minister, and I want to thank him for the response, and want to request him that the killing of young innocent people has become rampant in this country. A case in point are also the killings that are brought about by the bandits. Every day, we are losing 2 people every day in the presence of security officers. I want to base my case in Samburu, for example, just related to that case, because killing is just a killing. We are losing people every day. And the minister is aware, I'm sure, is being briefed every day that people are being killed by the bandits who come to displace people in their homes. They are killing in the presence of the security officers who are there, the army, the GSU, the police. So we are wondering, what are these security officers doing when innocent people are being killed each and every day? We have lost properties. In 2 months, in Samburu, for example, we have lost 30 young men and 1 middle-aged woman. We cannot continue in this trend, Mr. Professor Kindiki. Please do something. And if the security officers are overpowered by the bandits, tell us, then we will plan ourselves to deal with them properly. Thank you.
The last supplementary minister I'll give for Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Just as a follow-up to the question originally asked by Ms. Honorable Munene, Mr. Minister, Bwana Waziri, I must really appreciate the speed with which your ministry dispatched the Internal Affairs Unit and indeed the IPOA to carry out investigations on the fatal shooting of Mr. Mugambi in Chuka. Mr. Speaker, we have similar, more or less similar cases that have happened in the recent past. A case in point is the fatal shooting of a third-year Maseno University student, William Mayenga, in Maseno University by the police on the 20th, I think, of March this year. The second incident is the killing by being run over by a police vehicle of police officer Ben Oduor of Nyamira, or of Keroka Police Station, Nyamira County. Bwana Waziri, could you confirm to the August House if you have similarly, in those instances, dispatched the Internal Affairs Unit to carry out investigations? And if so, what is the progress of those investigations? What is the status of those investigations? Or could we be seeing a case of double standards, application of the law differently in different situations, in different parts of the country, and concerning different communities? Two, is it now a policy of the Kenya Police Service to quell riots by use of live bullets? Is the old policy of using rubber bullets now discarded? And if so, when did this change in policy occur? And for whose benefit? Thank you.
Minister, there is a member, Honorable Kamren, who says that if he doesn't ask a supplementary, it will not be good for him today. I'll give him a minute, then you can answer the 5 questions.
Asante Bwana Spika. Nataka nichukue nafasi hii Spika. Ya nashukuru waziri amejaribu, lakini ninapoongea saa hii vita inaendelea kwangu Baringo South. Sasa hivi ninapoongea na kijana mmoja tumepoteza maisha, watatu wameumia. Nimetumana pesa ya meli kwenda kuwachukua wale ambao wameumia, na nimetumana gari kwenda kuchukua mwili, na saa hii ng'ombe imeenda, watu wanakimbia, wanahangaika kwa sehemu ya Kiserian, Mukutane na Rukus. Najua waziri alikuwa kwa huko hapo awali, lakini saa hii imekuwa chungu kwamba kazi hii ya bandits inaendelea. Sijui waziri utafanya namna gani kwamba watu wangu wapata amani. Nimeomba kila wakati kwamba au wakora watolewe Rukus, Mukutane na Arabal locations. Au wamechukua hiyo locations sote 3. Hakuna mtu naishi mashule, mpaka hata bandits wenyewe wanaishi kwa mashule. Ile tuliyochenga kwa CDF. Nitakuwa nikicomplain mara ngapi? Watu wangu hawana bunduki. Mimi sio kama wale wengine wana bunduki wanaweza kujiokoa. Sisi hatuna bunduki. Waziri na anaelewa. Naomba kwamba nahitaji amani, na hii watu wangu ambao wameumia saa hii kwa sababu sijui hata ni ngapi. Naomba kwamba waziri, tutafanya nini hii vita saa hii isimame na watu wangu warejee, na hiyo ng'ombe imechukuliwa irudi, na serikali wanisaidie hiyo mwili ambaye imeenda na hao watu naumia, serikali wakaramie. Asante sana.
Minister, you may answer those 6 supplementaries. Be precise and concise. Given the tremendous interest, I might give another 2 thereafter.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, with regard to the supplementary question raised by the member for Tharaka, I would like to respond as follows. That at this point, when investigations are ongoing, we do not have conclusive evidence on who would have shot the deceased. However, if the evidence links an officer of the National Police Service or any other government official in the murder of Mr. Kiraku, two things I would like to assure the House. One, whoever is responsible will be prosecuted. And two, if the person has died in the hands of our officers, the procedures for compensation will ensue. Honorable Speaker, with regard to the question raised by the Honorable Mbui, I would like to respond as follows. There are no shoot-to-kill orders. On the contrary, all officers in the National Police Service and all security agencies who are involved in managing public protests, demonstrations, and riots, and crowd control are under very strict instructions not to use live bullets when dealing with members of the public. In fact, Honorable Speaker, the reason the OCPD was transferred is because there were very strict orders given by the Inspector General of Police that there should be no live bullets used in crowd control, not just in Chuka, but even in other protests. So we want to give some independence so that we establish when the OCPD is not in office, if indeed it's a police officer who fired that killer bullet against the orders and the policy of this government, then action will be taken. But of course, it could have been any other firearm holder because there are civilians also who are licensed to carry arms and they could take advantage of riots to cause deaths. Honorable Speaker, the third supplementary question was raised by the member for Samburu. And I want to assure the House, through you, Mr. Speaker, that the deaths that have been caused in Samburu and other parts of the country as a result of livestock rustling and banditry are regrettable. Two, we have had an operation going on there, but we continue to experience incidents of bandit attacks from time to time. Honorable Speaker, what has happened is that we have been able to dominate the permanent abodes where we suspected bandits were hiding whenever they steal livestock. And because of international standards on the use of force, that is the only reason we gave 24-hour ultimatum to any members of the civil population who could have been mixed up in these areas by way of being family members to the bandits, etc., to vacate. After that, we have been able to actually remove and dominate those areas and remove the threats that used to exist in those areas. But the spiral, what has happened is that during that window of notice we had given to be able to ensure that we don't have civilian casualties, some of these criminals could have mixed with the population. And because the security forces cannot be everywhere and guard every homestead, they are making sporadic raids, sometimes successful. But Mr. Speaker, we have prevented and thwarted and even recovered livestock numerous times on a daily basis. I am even willing to table within the time that we have had an operation in the north, how many livestock have been stolen in all those counties, how many have been recovered, and where, and how many are outstanding. We have not made full recoveries, and the reason is simple, that as soon as a raid is successful, the criminals divide the livestock into small numbers, 5, 10, so the recovery process is a bit slow painful, but we've made some significant recoveries. I have evidence as late as yesterday, we have recovered livestock in Laikipia. So, Mr. Speaker, the challenge is still there. We do not want to deny that the challenge does not exist. And Mr. Speaker, this challenge has not started this year, last year, 5 years, 10 years. This is a problem that started as early as 1977 in some parts of these areas. We are doing everything possible to make sure that we have a final end of this problem. It cannot be done in a month, 2 months, 6 months, 1 year, but we will reach there. It doesn't matter what it takes. We appeal for patience, we appeal for understanding, and we know that we will get around it as soon as we continue this domination of these areas where the bandits retreat when they steal livestock. In fact, Honorable Speaker, we are upscaling the numbers of security agencies we have. We are doubling them on Saturday. And as I've announced, this deployment will not cease with the end of the operation. Whenever the operation will be called off, the security agencies will remain there for as long as Kenya exists, to ensure that this problem does not recur. Because previously we have done an operation, as soon as there is a semblance of tranquility, we recall the security agencies. Honorable Speaker, therefore the supplementary question was raised by the member for Ugunja, the Honorable Pio Wandai. And I would like to assure the House, through you, Honorable Speaker, that the government has no double standards or does not respond to security threats based on where they happen. In the matters that the Honorable Wandai has raised, in fact, we acted even faster. But there was no question asked for us to report what we have done. So I want to confirm to the House, the Honorable Speaker, that the same measures we have applied in Chuka are the same measures that have applied in this instance. The Internal Affairs Unit, as we speak, is on the ground. The IPOA is also on the ground to provide independent investigations. So there are no double standards, and I think I can comprehensively say I am the minister who has been in most parts of the country, given that I've only served for slightly under 6 months. I've been in almost 70% of Kenya. So there cannot be double standards, and I don't know the last time I was near my home. So if there will be double standards, I'll be accused of not going home, Honorable Speaker, not the other way around. Honorable Speaker, with regard to the fifth one, the fifth supplementary question raised by the Honorable Kamuren, because the one by the Honorable Wandai about live bullets, I've already said the instructions are on the contrary, no live bullets. That's why you have seen, even in the most dramatic protests that we've had recently, we have not had casualties. We've not had deaths. And wherever deaths have occurred, like the Kisumu death and the one death in Kibera, the investigations will help us know whether this was a police gun or a civilian gun, because as I have said, both the police and civilians are licensed holders of firearms. If we establish anybody has violated the rules and the standing orders of the National Police Service, action will be taken. Honorable Speaker, finally, the supplementary question raised by the Honorable Kamren. I've been to Baringo, perhaps a little more than any other county, both overtly and covertly. I have been there visibly and invisibly. I know the complications and I understand the pain Honorable Kamren is going through. I share it, and I know what he's going through today. We have discussed with the leadership of Baringo and the other stakeholders and our security commanders on the ground that we must come round this problem so that it's just beyond recovering livestock which was stolen today. For me, I believe we must have a way of ensuring that no livestock is stolen again in the first place. What are the measures we are putting in place? One, this afternoon, we have just approved an additional 200 police reservists for Baringo, 100 for Baringo North, 100 for Baringo South. Training is going to start before Friday because we believe the security agencies cannot be in every homestead, but the National Police Reservice can help mitigate a big way, and we have seen in other parts of the country, NPRs are helping stabilize situation in a big way. So we have approved that. I have provided the money for their training immediately. We will not be asking for any stakeholders to help us. We will do it, and that will stabilize. Number two, we are opening up 2 new security roads. We are moving equipment to make sure that we make security roads, which we have discussed, especially in Baringo North, and I am looking for an opportunity to have a discussion with Honorable Kamburen on 2 major roads that will take care of Arabal, Mukutane, Ngelecha, and that interface between Arabal Hills, Mukutane, and into the Laikipia Nature Conservancy, which is giving us a lot of problems because of the reasons which I've explained. So, Mr. Speaker, we are not there, but we are on the way there. I am going back to the operation area, and I am going to stick there a little longer. And I know between us and the political leadership, we'll find a lasting solution through security roads, through NPRs, and through intelligence-led investigations. Mr. Speaker, I think that's all for now. And once again, the Honorable Kamburen, the information you've given me will be acted on immediately I leave this chamber. Maybe we can talk and discuss how we can support you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Milemba, what is out of order? Give Omboko Milemba the mic.
With the humility, Honorable Speaker, the Waziri did dare both you and the House that he can table the recoveries in all those areas. And what we see in the media gives an impression that the government is not doing as much, like the bandits are doing so much. So could you please, Honorable Speaker, if I'm in order, to order that the minister tables those documents immediately so that the people from those areas and Wananchi in general can have confidence in the progress. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I think it's not papers, but statistics that he promised to table. Minister, when we are done, you can pass on the document, the statistics to us. Now, honorable members, I still have members who have worked here, 8 in number, and on the screen I have 11 who are interested in this question. This is a trial run, like I said, and we said we'll be having about 3 supplementaries. But because the members who have come here can take judicial notice are mostly from the epicenter of the security challenges, indulge me to give them a minute each to ask 1 question each. I don't give you an opportunity to make a speech or to go to unhelpful tirades. Ask a supplementary to the minister, and I'll also ask him to oblige the House with short answers to save on our time. Member for Manyata. And I also notice, honorable members, honorable member for Manyata, you've seen me and you've said you want to ask a question about the Kianjokoma brothers. Now, that is totally unrelated to what is going on now. But you can ask. It is good if you have a question that you want to ask, file one, and the minister will come and answer.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
Why I wrote Kenjakoma brother is because we are still reeling in loss of those two young brothers, and we have not recovered up to date. And Honorable Speaker, I first want to say thank you to Waziri, because he has really shown a lot of restraint during maandamanos on the issue of using police force. Honorable Speaker, my question is on the investigation, efficiency of investigation of extrajudicial killing. And we have a case here where police body investigates itself. And I would like Waziri to kindly give us an overview, because he has come in as a new blood with a very nice team that can help improve this issue. But Honorable Speaker, many extrajudicial killing that we have had, including the Yala River famous killings, Honorable Speaker, we would like to know what he is doing as a ministry in terms of policy level to improve on the efficiency of police investigation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Turkana Central, 1 minute. Give the member for Turkana Central. There's a mic next to you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance, and also I join the rest of the members in thanking the CS for being the pioneer CS to appear before the House. First, as we speak here today, Honorable Speaker, there are families, more than 50 households that have lost their animals, their livestock, in the 1 a.m. raid in Turkana Central, in Turkana East, and in Turkana South. The animals are being driven towards Tiati as we speak, and we are still pursuing the bandits as we speak. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in Uganda, there are Turkanas, 32 of them, who are cordoned, wrapped up, and imprisoned through the court-martial in Uganda. One question that I want to ask is, why is the CS not able to implement such also in Kenya, where the caves, the gorges, and the places he mentioned in the Gazette notice, why is there no action in terms of cordoning and even wrapping up the bandits in those areas?
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Number two, Honorable Chair.
One question.
Okay.
You are done, Honorable Member. Baringo North. Yes, Honorable Junet. Hold on, Honorable. Give Honorable Junet the mic.
Hello, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for indulging me, Mr. Speaker. If I heard the member very clearly, he said, Mr. Speaker, that cows are being taken to Tiati as we speak now here.
No,
and the member of Parliament for Tiati is here, Mr. Speaker.
He said they're headed to
Tiati.
towards Tiati.
Towards Tiati, Mr.
Which
Speaker.
is different from being taken to
And the
Tiati.
member of Parliament for Tiati is here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, could he explain this matter a bit further, whether the cows are going to his home, Mr. Speaker?
That is for... I invite the member for Baringo North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll utilize the 1 minute as follows. One, Mr. Speaker, this is the only cabinet secretary alive in security who has actually spent his energy and time and resources.
Ask your question.
So I want to thank him. Number one question, Mr. Speaker, my intelligence is that the bandit that was taken away in hospital in Iten is the one that killed my cousin. And he was taken by 10 bandits in an hospital in Iten, driven to wherever by the other bandits. Could the minister therefore tell us when that wounded bandit who was in hospital will be brought to book? And my last question, Mr. Speaker.
Only one.
I still have the 1 minute, Mr. Speaker. When is the minister going to operationalize the gazetted administrative units in Baringo North? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. There was a member who wanted to ask about the abduction of the injured bandit, so you don't have to rise to ask that question. Honorable Ariko. Ariko from Turkana, is it Loima?
South.
Turkana South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate this opportunity. I want to voice what is happening in Turkana South and Turkana East. Honorable Speaker, I request to ask a supplementary question with regards to the capacity of our security agencies. Honorable Speaker, what is happening in Turkana? We have experienced rampant raids, which we cannot explain the intention of these raids. Honorable Speaker, yesterday, my constituency experienced 3 raids, both in one ward called Katil Ward. It happened at 1 p.m. and again a repeated one at 5 a.m. Honorable Speaker, I wish to ask the Minister for Interior, CS Professor Kindiki, do we have a capacity as a country to handle this internal conflict? Because there has been a recurrent raids or conflict in this country. What are the plans now that our security agencies on the ground are experiencing shortage of resources to handle this conflict? Honorable Speaker, as at now, we have surveillance vehicles, we have KDF, we have a number of security agencies in Turkana South. But unfortunately, the response we are experiencing, this response can only happen during the daytime. The bandits have come up with a new strategy. And this strategy is only to raid at night when our security agents are sleeping. They cannot operate at night. Honorable Speaker, what is the take of our CS with regards to this matter? Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Speaker.
Hold on. Thank you, Honorable Ariko. Avoid the temptation to make a speech in the guise of a question. Honorable Kangogo.
Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Mr. Kindiki. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Cabinet Secretary, the National Police, Mr. CS, they don't have the capacity to handle the bandits in Kerio Valley. Mr. Speaker, on Friday, peacemakers from West Pokot and my constituents, Mr. Speaker, recovered about 7 heads of cattle, and they were taken to a Chieshu camp in a place called Kamele, so that to be handed over to the owners the following day. Mr. Speaker, that night, a daring bandits entered into a Chieshu camp and took away all the animals. On Friday, Mr. Speaker, the same thing with the honorable member for Baringo North talked about. A bandit who was arrested and taken to county headquarters in Iten, where we have about 100 policemen. The county headquarters, Mr. Speaker. And then 10 bandits came all the way about 200 kilometers away to rescue their own, and they successfully took away from the police. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the CS to confirm to this House, Mr. Speaker, that the National Police Service are unable to handle the bandits, and bring a motion to this House so that we can have the Kenya military or the KDF to take over the operations of bandits in Kerio Valley.
The women rep Turkana, she's left. Yes,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
1 minute.
Okay, thank you. I only have a very brief question to the CS. Right now, we're being told that the person who was booked in at E10 County Referral was a bandit. Was there any OB elsewhere booked that particular person had previously been identified as a bandit or not? And then we would wish to know, was he taken by the police, or if the other people who came to the county referral and took him, if people are calling them bandits, can they name them by their names? So what I wish to know is, was there an OB elsewhere that Dennis was booked as a bandit? And the other ones who came to the rescue, were they police, or if as bandits? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Last, the Honorable Farah Maalim.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
Minister be ready to answer after Farah.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, be patient. If I'm satisfied there is enough interest, I'll give another round.
Mr. Speaker, this is, I must commend the government on this, because this is the first time the military has been used for a peacekeeping in this country where there was not a genocide the way it was done in Wagala, in Wajir in 1984. And my biggest worry was that this was going to be heavy, and it's going to be military is not for this kind of things. But the fact that you have protected the lives of the innocents and you're just looking for the actual bandits themselves deserves a lot of compliment. My question, Mr. Speaker, is, Mr. Minister, have you tried some soft power? Have you tried to find out how you can deal with the elders, with the communities, and bring the communities together, as opposed to maintaining basically law and order in that place? Have you also tried to look at the social issues that underpin, because there's only one community that everybody's complaining about, the Pokots. The Pokots are the poorest, they are the least educated, there's the least what they call infrastructure in order.
Order, Farah. Order. The member from Balambala, you are out of order. Can you conclude your question?
Mr. Speaker, we need to educate those children, Mr. Speaker. We have heard this before, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Minister, thank you very much. I've discussed some of these things with you, and I'm sure you're going to take them into consideration. But let's look at the social conditions in there, first of all. When you have a very poor social condition somewhere and everywhere around there has got some wealth, then of course they will go and try and go and attack those places. So my question is that let's look at soft power. It has worked in Northeastern Province, for your information. And also let's see how we can change the situation of the children of Pokot there. Thank you.
Who is raising a point of order? Moroto, what is your point of order? Because Pokots were mentioned?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I want to say thank you very much for giving me also this chance to say, when these people are talking, they are talking as if they are the holiest. When they are also killing. I lost about 5 people the other day and this morning in a Takwel.
Honorable
From
Moroto,
the south.
I've given you a floor because you are challenging what Farah was saying. Now you are pursuing a totally different agenda. What was out of order that Farah was saying, that's the reason why I gave you the floor.
No, Mr. Speaker, I was just asking what I have in my mind. I was not following what Farah said.
Oh.
My question, I just want to, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to take time. I want to congratulate the CS, and I want to ask him to use the intelligence services. For these guys here speaking here, let them also be put in so that they can know how to control themselves down there on the ground. I come from Kapenguria. We used to have the problem between West Pokot and Trans Nzoia, but this time there's nothing there because we met and we sat like leaders and worked together. These guys now, they're now talking here and they cannot even go to ground and they invite us to come and tell them what to do. Mr. Minister, start with these people. The members, put them in.
Honorable Moroto, you are totally out of order. You are imputing improper motives on your colleagues. Minister. Minister, if you can give quick, short answers to those short questions. We still have 4 questions for you, and we have done very poorly. 45 minutes on this one.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'll do as guided on the first matter. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to say on the issue that was raised on a point of order about tabling statistics on recoveries of livestock. I didn't say I'm carrying the statistics. I said if the House directs, I can table them in the House even by
heard
Tuesday.
you that way.
Yes,
You can,
Mr. Speaker, I can, if you direct,
yes.
I can table the statistics of recoveries from the time the operation began. In fact, we can even take it backwards a bit, 2 months before, and these 2 months when there have been an operation, and the recoveries and where and what is remaining. Mr. Speaker, also, I maybe inform the House through you that I am informed that the High Court in Chuka has ruled in favor of the Prosecution Council and in favor of the state to cancel the anticipatory bail on the suspected killers. Mr. Speaker, other than that, let me mention or respond to the other issues quickly. We are strengthening the independent police oversight authority to supplement the work of the Internal Affairs Unit of the National Police Service to provide an independent arm of the state that can help in dealing with extrajudicial killings. I confirm to the House, Mr. Speaker, and assure the House and the member for Manyata that all extrajudicial instances of extrajudicial killings are actively under investigation, and the policy of this administration is zero tolerance on extrajudicial killings. The police officers have been informed accordingly that we shall not protect any officer who misuses their firearm to kill people other than what the law provides on the use of lethal force in law enforcement. Honorable Speaker, with regard, and that includes the issue around the killing in Kianjokoma. Mr. Speaker, the second one, raised by the member for Baringo North, the Honorable Makilap, that yes, it's true there was that incident, and I want to tie that to the other supplementary question raised by the member for Elgeyo Marakwet, the women rep, because they are related. There was an incident at Iten Hospital. The suspect involved, the person involved is a suspected bandit because he had bullet wounds and he could not explain where he was shot, and he just came to look for treatment. And we believe also that the people who came to rescue him were criminals because they came through the fence of the hospital, so they just came perhaps to rescue one of their own who was hurt and could not explain. The reason why that happened, notwithstanding the presence of a few police officers who were on site at that time, was the determination by the commanding officer on site that a shootout inside that facility would have caused fatalities on patients. And that gave a leeway for the rescue to succeed. I want to confirm to the House, through you, Mr. Speaker, that this person has been on police radar even before this attack. We are on him. We have some leads. We believe we shall arrest him as soon as possible. Honorable Speaker, the other issue was raised by the member for Turkana South on the capacity of our police agencies to maintain law and order. Honorable Speaker, I am persuaded that Kenya has enough police officers and enough wherewithal to handle all our challenges, including the challenges we are facing in northern Kenya. However, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that it is the position of this government that there is need to reform our national security organs to make sure that they respond better to our threats. That is why one of the first acts His Excellency the President undertook was to institute a presidential task force on reforming the National Police Service, which is an admission that there is need to reform around command, around efficiency, and around operational sophistication to make sure that the gaps that we continue to exist, to encounter in our law enforcement of our internal security are resolved. Very shortly, that task force will present its findings. The government has committed to implement all the recommendations without exception that will come from that task force, including changing the entire command of the National Police Service, the terms under which one becomes a commander of any level, tying command to success and results and deliverables, so that you don't become a county commander, a regional commander for life, and there are no results. People are still having insecurity in your area. Make it time-bound and tied to results. And even that reform, even as we wait for those recommendations, we are continually addressing command issues to ensure efficiency. Even this afternoon, I think the government and the National Police Service will be announcing changes in the top command of the National Police Service, starting with the appointment of the Deputy Inspector General of the Kenya Police Service, whose recruitment process is complete. And we have had a gap there for a long time because the immediate former Deputy Inspector General of Police was indisposed. But from this afternoon, that gap is going to be filled, and that will help the Inspector General perhaps to respond a little better and quicker, even as we wait for the other reforms. Honorable Speaker, I have one other last one, the one that was raised around the issue of what measures we are taking to make sure that the gaps we are having are sealed. One, the House may want to know that in 2014, the government started a police equipment modernization program, which ran for 3-4 years, but stopped after that. It was to the tune of 10 billion shillings a year. It really helped to improve the security at that time. But due to the collapse of that funding program, we have had issues around our ability to make Kenya safer. And what this administration has done is to revive the police equipment modernization program. And for the next 3 years, the government of Kenya will spend 20 billion shillings to ensure that we modernize our equipment. I am happy to return here if the House requires so in 3 months, because by that time, in 3 months from now, I expect to have revived the police air wing, which is completely dead. I intend to have acquired at least 3 gunship helicopters for the National Police Service so that we stop depending on the military, because they also have a national duty to perform. I intend to acquire some unmanned armored vehicles, UAVs or drones, and going forward, increasingly, we are going to yield the benefits of technology-driven, intelligence-driven operations. I am happy to come back and report progress on this after a few months on the request of the House. I think, Honorable Speaker, that is it. Maybe if I've left anything, I'll be reminded, but...
Only one, far as soft power engaging...
Soft power, I agree. Honorable Speaker, I agree. Thank you for the reminder, sir. We believe that the long-term solution of this problem is not just the hardware. But we have made a policy decision that before we can engage on long-term solutions, including issues of economic empowerment and social amenities, we must silence the guns first. We must do whatever it takes to make it rare that there is an attack, there is there's gunfire everywhere. And after that, now we can sit down and ask ourselves, why is it that this problem is recurring all the time? The ministry has developed a master plan in conjunction with other stakeholders, including the military, for infrastructural development of northern Kenya, which will begin from December this year, rebuilding schools, providing amenities, and also engaging communities for peace building, and that will now come with both disarmament, forceful and voluntary. But first, before we engage in any of these programs, Mr. Speaker, we are persuaded that we must silence the guns. As soon as we acquire the equipment we are looking at as the National Police Service, there will be a lot of change. But even as we speak, we have made a lot of changes in evacuating the gorges, the valleys, and the hideouts. And the attacks that are happening now are attacking in the criminals who may have used the window we had given for evacuation of civilians so that we comply with international law. That allowed a few, in our view, to escape and mingle with populations, and they are the ones giving us problems, which we are resolving through NPR and through the technology that we are acquiring in the next few weeks or months. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, I know there's much more interest on this, but we have to move to the next question. Question 074 of 2023, member for Gilgil, Mother Wangari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 74 of 2023 to the Cabinet Secretary of Interior and National Administration. Number one, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why there is a shortage of birth registration materials, also known as B1 forms, in health facilities across the country? Number two, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why mothers in public hospitals, especially those on the national government Linda Mama program, are subjected to unnecessary detention after discharge as a result of unregistered births of their babies due to the above-mentioned shortage, yet it is the duty of the government to provide the B1 forms? And finally, what steps has the ministry taken to ameliorate the situation and ensure that mothers who are due for discharge are not forced to incur any additional bills due to the unjust detention in hospitals owing to the government's incapacity to promptly register births as a result of the lack of birth registration forms? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a soft question.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, we admit that we have challenges in the availability of Form B1s. And this is a problem that started last year, around April 2022. And the challenge is arising from the capacity at the government press. The government press has not been modernized for a very long time. The equipment they have and the human resource capacity does not allow them to print enough security documents, including these forms, quick enough to meet the rising demand. Therefore, you will see in the response, the written response which I filed before this House, Mr. Speaker, I have attached 3 letters which we have written as a ministry to the government printer, requiring them to increase the speed at which they are supplying us with Form B1s. I can report to the House, Honorable Speaker, that the demand right now the supply is 50 books of 400 forms per week, but the demand is over 1,000 books of that size. So you can see we are supplying less than, almost a third, less than half of the requirement. What measures are we taking? Other than writing letters, we have changed the management of the government printer because we also would believe that part of the challenge is the innovation of the leadership at that unit to provide off-balance sheet, off-budget solutions to some of the capacity challenges we are having. And I can report comfortably, after changing the management of the government press in the last 2 months, the new government printer has tabled, and I have approved, an equipment modernization program which will not even involve government spending any money, because it's through a lease of equipment where over time we will pay whoever owns those machines, and after 10 years we hand over the machines to him. That is the solution that helped us with police vehicles when the police leasing, vehicle leasing program was initiated. So we believe very soon that will be tackled. But in the meantime, we have asked the CRS, that is the Civil Registry Department or unit, Civil Registry Service Department, to give the government printer the projections for the rest of the year. And we are working to see how, pending the modernization program I'm talking about, that demand can be met as soon as possible. Mr. Speaker, finally, on that issue, I want to assure the House again that perhaps when I come back, the members will have positive feedback on this service, because we believe the registration of the births of our children and the deaths of our departed persons should not be aggravated further by absence of documents. The member for Gilgil has also asked whether the detention of young mothers in hospitals, especially under the Linda Mama program, is linked to the shortage of these booklets. The government's position is that this is not the case for 2 reasons, Honorable Speaker. Reason number 1 is that birth registration is free of charge, so it cannot be the purpose that makes a mother to be detained in hospital beyond the time she's supposed to be released. Secondly, why we believe this is not the cause is because the registration of births is allowed to take place within a period of 6 months after birth. So long as it's done within 6 months, it's lawful. So it cannot be the basis of saying, you know, we hold a mother in hospital who has given birth because of lack of these booklets. That notwithstanding, when I got this parliamentary question, I have directed the civil registrar to provide us with a solution. Even as we wait for this equipment, we need to find a solution so that should the House require me to provide an update in the next few months, because the equipment program may take around 6 months because of the nature, the financing and the contractual arrangements, we will have an answer. Finally, Honorable Speaker, is that we have shortage of personnel. That's another challenge we are having in that department. We have only about 286 civil registrars for the whole country, against the establishment of approximately 1,400, which has been approved by the Public Service Commission. we are trying to see how, even if we don't fill the entire complement, the Public Service Commission can help us perhaps hire a few more in the financial year that starts June 2023.
Majority Leader, Wangari, you want to have your first shot? Let Majority Leader go first. I'll give you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, may commend the CS for being the first CS to appear in this session. But Honorable Speaker, you will, and the House will appreciate that the reason, part of the reasons why we wanted CSs to appear before the House is for them to answer to questions that are of concern to the people, but also to use this opportunity to expound on government policy, on what government is doing. Honorable Speaker, it has been my belief in the past, and maybe something the CS will work to change that belief in me, that the personification of bureaucracy in government and the personification of liturgy in government operations resides in the Ministry of Interior. And if you listened to the answers pertaining to the issues to do with bandits, and even now when I listen to the CS answer the question on slow printing of forms, I hear the CS telling us forms are slowly being printed by the government printer because of challenges of modernization in the government printer's office, challenges of employment, there are low staff levels in the department. When I also listen to the president who has hired the CS, the president is talking about digitization. So I really want to know from the CS, where do you sit as a cabinet secretary in terms of implementing that policy on the digitization of government services? Because you cannot be talking about low levels of staff while we are also complaining of a huge wage bill in the public service, when the president is telling us about digitization and the CS is telling us that he's modernizing printing. Shouldn't we then be getting this B1 form in a digital format? And I can see the PS Citizen Services is seated there. The PS Citizen Services have engaged with him on a unique identifier system that seeks to capture data of newborns digitally, electronically. But now the CS is telling us about modernizing the government printer, hiring another person at the government printer who will be more efficient, leasing equipment instead of buying new equipment. CS, you must tell us, where do you sit? Are you aligned to the president's agenda to digitize, or are you not? It is that simple. Cabinet Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was hoping that this would be a softer question because it has no guns, but I can see the guns are already coming out. But I want to just also thank the CS, congratulate him for being the first one in this very unique arrangement where we get answers firsthand instead of what we used to go about last parliament, 11th parliament, chairs who had no substantial answers. I have listened to the CS very carefully, and Mr. Speaker, this small matter of birth registration may look small, but the inconveniences it gets to people and to the public at large are huge. You want to take your child to grade 1 to register for NEMIS, you need a birth certificate. You want to get a passport, you will need a birth certificate. So, Mr. Speaker, I am actually perturbed to hear the CS say that he has written letters to the government printer, who is also anchored under the same ministry. I do not have the advantage of their nexus, so I will not speak to the letters. But my question is, follow-up question is, what are the timelines that we are looking at? And the reason I ask that, Mr. Speaker, is because shortages with birth registration, with death registration, shortages with IDs, printing materials are treated as normal. So my first question is, how does the civil registration services sit in the ministry in terms of budget allocation, in terms of autonomy, in terms of being able to run these services, Mr. Speaker? Number two,
supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, this is my question, and you did very badly with that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll try to be very quick. The other one is the fact that the annexure between the Linda Mama parents, Mr. Speaker, and Linda Mama women. I am a practicing mother. I have given birth in the not so long past, Mr. Speaker. And I can tell you, whether you give birth in a public...
I didn't know being a mother is a practice.
Yeah, it's practicing. It's still ongoing. It's still ongoing, Mr. Speaker. But I'm just confirming, because I have gone through it, I know whether you give birth in the public hospitals or the private hospitals, you must be issued with that short pink paper that is called a notification, Mr. Speaker. That notification, you can use it in 6 months. But hospitals and scrupulous hospitals, Mr. Speaker, are detaining mothers so that they are there for longer, so that the bills accumulate to pay. But that pink paper, even for home deliveries, Mr. Speaker, is gotten from the B1 paper that I'm asking about. So that is their nexture with the Linda Mama. And finally, Mr. Speaker, last Parliament, I brought a motion here. It was overwhelmingly approved because many members, including Muhaya MP, the Northern Kenya, Mr. Speaker, do not have civil registration centers. So we requested, and this House passed, that we establish in every sub-county a civil registration center. So I'll be very keen to know what is the progress on that motion, even as we implement, Mr. Speaker, or does it have to wait longer? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my question to the CS, who is a fellow left-handed, so I'm sure he'll think quick on his feet, is in relation to single mothers. The issue that most single mothers experience when they are transitioning from birth notification to birth certificates is that they're not able to get birth certificates for their children because in most instances, they don't have IDs of their father. So my question to the CS is, what support can you give to the single mothers to ensure that they get birth certificates for their children, because they need this to be able to process medical insurance for their children? Thank you.
Dr. Nyikal, if you can be as brief as that, it will be very helpful. I take 4 and close the chapter to the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I also appreciate the Minister for being the first to answer questions here. Mr. Minister, the question was the Cabinet to explain why mothers in public hospitals, then especially Mama Linda, you therefore, okay, Linda Mama. Okay, why mothers in public hospitals, especially those?
Out a personal secret.
Yes. Why those on Linda Mama program are delayed? The implication of the question, Mr. Speaker, is that actually in private hospitals, this is not a problem. And those mothers who are also paying directly is not a problem. This is not in line with the minister's answer, which is that there is a shortage of forms at the printing level. If the problem was at printing level, then obviously this should affect all mothers, whether private, whether Linda Mama. So that's what is the issue there. And also, the number of children that are born annually is a factor that is publicly known. It's about between 1.5, around 1.5 million. And the minister is saying he needs information on this number. So if that's not satisfactory, can we have clarification on those 2 points, Mr. Speaker?
Thank you. Dr. Bukose. If you ask just one question,
Mr.
Yes.
Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary and congratulate him for being the first. Mr. Speaker, CS, my question is about the Uduma number, Uduma cards, Uduma number. What happened to them? Because at one time, a lot of colossal sums of money were used to procure the Uduma number. Is it still there? What happened to it? Thank you.
Mary Emase.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for finally noticing us around this corner. Mr. Speaker, I want to emphasize on the issue of decentralizing issuance of birth certificates. Mr. Speaker, it is a very serious issue. My mothers go to another sub-county to look for birth certificates. And sometimes they are told those forms are not there. They have to travel so many kilometers severally. So I just want to emphasize that there is need to have a center in every sub-county. And Mr. Speaker, speaking of security, because I do not have time to ask, I just want to add one. That sometimes we even use our assistant chiefs and chiefs actually to collect those birth certificates, take them to the center. And I want to just request the CS kindly. Across the country, we have administrative units where the chiefs or assistant chiefs have passed on or have retired. They have not been replaced. A number of administrative units, like even divisions like in Teso South, were created. They have not yet been operationalized. Kindly, can you do something about it? Because they play a critical role in security. They help us with the birth certificates. They help us in even acquiring IDs. If there is no assistant chief or a chief to do the vetting, then our people are not getting these very necessary services on time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Now you have resorted to raising your hands like in a classroom. The member, I can't see that far. The honorable member from, is it Mandera? The one next in front of Mase. Sorry, honorable member, I can't see you clearly because of the lighting. Honorable Sane. 1 minute, Honorable Sane. I couldn't see you clearly.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
saw
Speaker.
that your hand was up for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can use my colleague's mic. I come from a county which is over 56,000 square kilometers. I do appreciate the work of the PS. For the first time since independence, he has posted at least death and birth officers last week. But the rest of the sub-counties do not have officers. Forget about forms. So in as much as I appreciate Honorable Wangari's question, when is the Cabinet Secretary posting all the officers in all the sub-counties of Wajir, which is twice the size of Rwanda as a country? Thank you.
CNN, Nguna. One question.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, some members here are very lucky. I am talking of the new constituencies which were created in 2013. In my constituency, Mwingi West, there is no single registration center on this. What is the ministry doing to ensure that these constituencies, at least members don't have to go to other constituencies to access the same service? Thank you.
Minister, you may answer those, and just before you do that, allow me, in case we have held these students for too long, we acknowledge the presence of students from Mamangina Senior School in Kikuyu, Kiambu. They are in the public gallery, and in the speaker's gallery we have St. Albert the Great, Siakago Boys High School, Mbere North in Embu. You are welcome to the House of Parliament. Minister Hall, I give a member for Lamu East, and who is out of order, Madam Chelule, to run across the floor with your hand raised.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipatia nafasi. Nami ni muulize waziri ana mipango gani kwa wakazi wanaoishi mbali na ambapo hawana maofisa wala hawana hizo ofisi. Mtu kama wa Kiunga inamgharimu shilingi 4,000 kutoka Ishakani mpaka Kiunga shilingi 300, Kiunga Tumkokoni ndio upande bot ni shilingi 700, boti ya miraa ukipanda from Mkokoni kufika Mokoe ambao kuna ofisi ni shilingi 3,000. Njia moja ni 4,000 kurudi 4,000, 8,000 kwenda kutafuta birth certificate. Sehemu kama hizo una mipango gani ambao hazina hizo ofisi? Paka tuje maeneo bunge mengine ndo tutafute hizo huduma. Asante Bwana Speaker.
Let's have the answers now. Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, one of the priorities for us as a ministry is institutional reforms within the security sector, immigration, citizen services, prisons, correctional services. As I began by saying earlier this afternoon, Honorable Speaker, we admit that the rate at which and the efficiency at which government services are being rendered is not satisfactory, and therefore we have considered that institutional reform, organizational culture change is a priority for all the departments within our ministry. I therefore want to accept the critical sentiments that have been raised about our performance, and we are working very hard to make sure that we do better. And going forward, this administration will be more than happy to report progress made on each and every sector. We have instituted baseline surveys for each and every service that we are offering, so that every 3-6 months we can be able to track progress. Having said so, Honorable Speaker, the Leader of Majority did ask whether we are remaining with the printing of documents or we are going digital. Honorable Speaker, the policy of government is to digitize all the services that it offers. I can report, as we speak, 5,771 services are partially digitized, out of which 3,293 services across government have been digitized end to end, and the other 2,498 are not partial, they are not end to end. The total is 5,771. 2,498 partially, 3,293 completely. So that is the policy. Digitization, Honorable Speaker, will come with its challenges, but it's a decision this government has taken to proceed that way. However, Honorable Speaker, that does not take the words that I spoke earlier, that still, as we wait towards complete digitization, we must continue producing and giving services, because our mothers are still giving birth as we speak, as we wait for this process to be consummated completely. And therefore, we are intended to make sure we satisfy the demand. I want to assure members we'll make progress. The Honorable Member for Gilgil asked for timelines. On 27th of March this year, which is 3 weeks ago, we initiated a rapid response initiative at the CRS, and therefore we're expecting 90 days that issue of shortage to be addressed, even as we wait for digitization, as well as the issue of equipment modernization. Honorable Speaker, a question has been raised on remote and far-flung areas, the example given by the member for Lamu East. I'll be visiting Lamu East next week for 2 days, and I think the example the member has given is an urgent priority, and I think we should be able to open a registration center in Kiunga as a matter of priority, because the need as described here is quite unique comparing to other parts of the country. I want to commit to the member and to the House that we're going to open a registration center there. Honorable Speaker, also, even as we continue with the digitization, we will still need registration centers. At the moment, out of the 369 sub-counties, in implementation of the motion passed by this House earlier on, we have civil registration centers in 137 sub-counties, meaning we are less than half. But we are continuing to open new ones on a needs basis. My PS for Citizen Services, I sent him to open one in Kajiado 1 month ago, and I think he's opening another one in Kobo, I think in a month's time. And this will be resolved as we continue to make sure that every sub-county has a civil registry. Honorable Speaker, also, the issue raised by the member from Mwingi West, I think Mwingi West is also an area which is, requires special measures, and I think we'll put it in our priority. Subject to resources, we will ensure that an area that like Mwingi gets that center also opened. I want to commit to the House that at least the ones that have been identified on the floor of this House by members, in the next 2 months, there will be a civil registration center, including the one raised about Wajir. Honorable Speaker, on this question and earlier on, a question was raised about administrative units. About 80 sub-counties were gazetted just before last election, and they are not operational. We do not have the resources to operationalize all those sub-counties. So what we have decided is to stagger the operationalization of all the gazetted sub-counties in a 3-year period, starting June this year. And the criteria we will use is the nature of hardship and inconveniences to service delivery, as well as regional balance, so that the first criteria of the 20 to 25 sub-counties to be operationalized this financial year starting June will take care of regions, but also hardship